야배야배야 이거 반응 되게 빠르단 말이야. 오늘 아까 본 수업 들어가 봤는데 상태 안 좋아 보여서 그 영상이나 나온 거 좀 봅시다.
Hello, bonjour, SitizenCon.
영국에서 봉주로 그러지.
Guten Tag, SitizenCon. Hola, SitizenCon. Ni hao, SitizenCon. And hello, Manchester. I'm not going to need this anymore.
정말.
Cool. I am Benoit Beauséjour, or as some of you know me, I am Balt on Spectrum. Today, we will talk about Brave New Worlds. This is Pyro 2, Monox. It's a barren planet, not really habitable. Now, since the advance of our planet tech, we've always allowed players to circumnavigate planets and move from orbit to ground seamlessly, explore complex areas in intricate detail. Now, with server meshing, we're going to need a lot more locations for missions and destinations for more life.
아니요?
But there's a major question that has always followed this project since the beginning of Alpha 3.0. How are we going to make a large number of planets and systems?
에브카티의
How are we going to meet?
이번 4.0에 관련해서는 그 공개 방송해도 된다고 그 허락해줬거든요. 그럴 거면 웨이브 1 하지 왜 에브카티 하는지 모르겠어. 아무튼 그 공개 방송 및 유튜브 올려도 된다고 허락을 했기 때문에 이번 4.0은
The fidelity benchmark we've established. In this technology update, we bring life to lifelessness,
에브카티도 요새
even to
신나가지고
Monax.
유튜브하고
We take the physical representation of the terrain, the geology, the atmosphere, the climate, and the environment to create accurate biomes that spring naturally from the collision of all these environments. Coherent, denser biomes that follow the laws of nature.
자동 목록 한번 돌려볼까? 되려나 모르겠다. 해보자. 한번 시도 한번 해보자.
That we encode into data that we then leverage to place flora and fauna, yes, but also settlements, buildings, alien and human life in a planetary context. This creates worlds that are scientifically plausible, richer in gameplay opportunities. We want you to find adventure just by going around the planets without a quantum point. We want you to find actions along your path. For this, we are changing how we made the game. We are scaling how we made the game in all areas. This is not just a Planet Tech update. This is a collection of systems that we call Genesis. Now, to help me explain all this nice work and this nice technology, let us kick us off. And I welcome our very own Ali Brown and Will Hine for phase 1 of Genesis.
페이지 1. 자연의 법칙.
Hello, Star Citizen.
Yes, hello, SitizenCon.
Yeah. So let's start with some introductions. This guy over here is Will Hine, aka Water Guy or River Guy.
And this lovely gentleman is Ali Brown, pusher of pixels extraordinaire.
And we're here to tell you about phase 1 of Genesis, which we're entitling The Laws of Nature. And this revolves around the fundamental approach we use to build our planet and is the literal foundation for everything else we're going to talk about in this talk today. Now, it centers on data-driven, physically based rules that we aim to realistically emulate nature and its incredible diversity. Before we dive in a bit deeper, let's just recap on some of the things we already have on our planets. So here you can see our lovely atmosphere and our cloud rendering, which can provide some spectacular views. We have our on-the-fly terrain generation, which is no loading screens in our game, which we're very proud of. And then we have our scattering system that can populate these planets with many different diverse biomes. And we've been setting quality benchmarks for each of these biomes as we come across them, one by one.
But what we have isn't
혼자
perfect.
갖고 있는 거.
This scene on Microtech, it looks great, but it's not getting the same density that you'd expect from a real pine forest. That's one of the things we want to solve. The other, if I take you to the other side of Microtech, you'd be excused if you thought we'd just turned around and looked at a different part of the forest. Why is that? Well, this is because currently our artists create slices of biomes in great number, and then they distribute them across the planet using humidity and temperature properties. Each slice looks great in isolation, as you've seen, as you've explored. But this is not the solution to give us varied and natural biomes across an entire planet. Additionally,
그러니까
just
지금
using
모든
humidity and
세상
temperature
모든
limits us to
면에서
only 2 degrees of variation. And that's not enough for the sorts of
환경이
planets and
똑같은
worlds
게
that
말이
we
안
want
된다,
to create
이거는
and for you to explore.
So how are we going to scale up our planet generation? Well, as I said before, we're going to start with physically based rules that drive everything. We want nothing to feel random on these planets. We want no limitations on the number of biomes. We want infinite biomes that are continuously changing across the planet.
그러니까
And we want extreme density,
지구도
and we want
행성이
to maintain or
돌면서
exceed all the
공전하면서
quality
계절이
levels we've set
바뀌듯이
with our existing
식생군이
biomes.
바뀌듯이
And most importantly, we want it to be scalable,
그런
so
걸
that we can
원한다,
really
이거지.
scale up to the level of content
될지 안
that the
될지
designers are expecting. And from your perspective, we want you to be able to truly explore and find unique playing opportunities everywhere on our
자기만의
planets.
그
So to start
장소를
this,
찾기
we're going to
바란다.
need more data. So if we see here some of our existing data sets on our
온도가
planets, we have temperature, which we define locally and globally, and humidity, and that's it for now. With Genesis, we add many other data sets, such as the geology type, the soil type, and then we also go for things like the soil depth and the quality and the nutrients and many other properties all drive this complex data set that we use to build rule sets on that each individual asset can describe how it should work with them.
We're going to put something together and show you some demos today using some of the assets that you've already know and love in the PU. Although you might see some new stuff later, we'll save that. What you're going to see is a vertical slice of development. It's very early stages, very work in progress. You might see some bugs, but that means it's only going to get better, so be excited. The number one challenge with planets in our game is scale. In no other context do you need a planet to look great from first-person perspective when you're stood among the trees. You need it to look great when you're in a spaceship at a quantum marker miles away, and everywhere in between. There are no loading screens, you see everything. We cannot afford for it to look bad in any of those scenarios. So, let's start from a ground perspective. Demo number 1, let's have a look.
승부를 너무 가팔라. 승부에 너무 대놓고 녹화됐어.
So, how do we make that? Thank you. Thank you.
그때만 해도 뭐 별거 없었죠.
So, let's talk about first what's
뭐
underneath it
달라진
all.
거지 말고.
The ground! So, so, in our previous terrain shader, we just switched between different ground textures depending on climate and didn't really consider the unique properties of each type. Now, the terrain shader is based around 4 layers. We always first consider bedrock at the bottom of it all. Then, where appropriate, we add layers of soil of different types. We then add debris where appropriate, whether it be pine needles, dead
지명의
leaves,
속성과
etc. And
지명
then when it
위에
gets
있는 흙의
cold,
속성까지
we add
파악한
snow.
다음에.
Each of these layers has unique shading properties and unique transitions between them. Because we do this all in one shader, we're able to achieve that as well as being performant. We can also use things like water saturation to darken and tint the soil and other properties to make it look more realistic. But that's not what filled most of the screen in that demo. That's the vegetation. Like what Ali said, we want to emulate the laws of nature. So in Genesis, we have rule sets for every asset that tells it how to respond to our rich data, whether it be soil type, water availability, temperature, geology, or whatever. We assess the viability and the vitality of each asset and compare them to decide what is likely to spawn in a natural environment. This automatically creates the cohesive environments that you saw in that clip. Not handcrafted anymore. No one has told those ferns and those pines to be like that. They each want to be like that. And that's what we're doing, multiple assets coming together to create a unique microbiome. What about trees then?
그러니까 결론적으로 얘기하면 현재로서는 좀 그냥 아무 속성 없이 그냥 겉모습만 눈이고 뭐 흙이고 뭐 푸른 들판이고 이런 식으로 했잖아요. 이제 지면의 속성, 그 암석이 깔려있는 훈암석이냐, 화강암이냐 이런 거부터 시작해가지고 그 위에 깔려있는 흙들, 그 흙의 속성이 뭐냐, 그 위에 올라갈 나무들은 뭐냐 이런 식으로 다 판단한다는 거지.
Same thing.
이 시스템이.
They have a larger requirement for space. They have a larger requirement for nutrients. That's how you see the distribution, and it's how it all works. Let's meet the flora that came together to beat that forest, to make that forest, and have a look at some of their properties. Now, just to note, they are all going to look quite similar because we've already seen them in the same place, so they must be similar. So, building blocks, like grass and common grass, medium amounts of sunlight. We had ferns, see it's a much lower requirement for sunlight. We had salix bushes forming our undergrowth. And we had pines, of course, and multiple variations of pines. Diversity is driven by competition. Everything has ideal conditions, which affects its competitiveness. We also have additional control over this in the form of dominance, which allows us to make one asset more competitive and more dominant than another, which is just what we see in nature. Everything is constantly fighting for resources and, of course, light. Because we spawn these assets in a hierarchy, it's easy to propagate shade data down over the distribution of the assets so that we can control ones that prefer or reject shade. Often, like these ferns, they can spawn in light, but they are outcompeted in those scenarios most of the time. So you will see a rogue fern, or a place where there's no seeds for a specific asset, you might start to get this coming in. Let's take a look from a larger perspective again.
돌이 좀 많이 느는 것 같긴 해. 그거 말고 잘 모르겠고. 을지르고 싶다. 에이트로 폭격하고 싶다. 이 지역에 왜 돌이 더 많은지 얘기하는 거예요.
So, to take you through some of the things we saw in that clip, let's talk about rocks first. So, anyone that's done a lot of ground driving and ground vehicles might have seen that our rocks sometimes feel a little bit randomly scattered and can be quite an obstacle sometimes. So, in this clip, you saw that the rocks are no longer randomly scattered, and they're now placed based on physically based rule sets. And this logical grouping is achieved via erosion simulations, which we run offline to build localized data maps. And they describe the size of the aggregate and rocks and the density and where they should naturally form. And that means we get things like these natural clusters of boulders at the forest edge underneath the cliffside. And on that note, you might have noticed that the cliffs have been dramatically improved in how they shade. We also see things like the natural clumping of vegetation caused by seed dispersal. This is controlled per species, so we can get better emulation of their unique growth patterns and create a much more realistic environment. And we also calculate the slope aspect, which is the exposure to vegetation to solar radiation and other environmental factors. And this allows us different species to flourish in different conditions, as we can see on different sides of this valley. Then over larger scale, we calculate the age and vitality of each tree individually to drive exactly how high they should be, but also the color of their leaves. Now, this isn't the only thing that will drive the color of the leaves. We're going to introduce the concept of seasons to the game. And this will mean our planets will evolve through the year, and we'll be able to shed leaves from trees and have the grass wither in winter.
이거 진짜 개쩔죠. 여긴 가을이야 하면서 행성 돌고 있는데 여긴 가을이고 뭐 1.0까지는 아니에요. 뭐 언제 들어올지 몰라요. 금방 들어올 수도 있고 늦게 들어올 수도 있고.
So as you're starting to see,
1.0과 관계없는
all these
기준이에요.
rules, all this data, it's all coming together to create what we call truly emergent biomes. Let's have one more look at how this varies over a much larger scale.
당장 스타시티즌 행성들은 공전을 안 하니까 계절이라는 건 공전하면 생기는 거잖아요. 네. 당장 안 하니까 나중 가서 어떻게 이거 적용될지 모르겠어요. 늘 생각하는 거지만 마이크로텍 행성 하나만 가지고 그 개쩔게 엘더 스크롤 만들면 재밌을 것 같아. 행성 하나짜리 크기짜리 엘더 스크롤. 몰라 재밌을 것 같아.
Just like in real life. Oh, thank you. Just like in real life, our areas should vary, even by traveling a few kilometers. If you get in a helicopter and fly over the Alps, it all looks a bit snowy, but when you look closer, it's constantly changing. And we're now able to accurately represent that with our changing data. Another very
이제
important
환경이
factor
뭐
to
변하는
mention
거를
is the
굳이 CID가
distant look. In this
직접
screenshot, you
개발자가
don't see a
수정할 필요
single
없이
tree, and yet the
시스템이
tree,
알아서
the
돌아서
terrain is still green.
돌아가가지고 계절과 그
We previously did
환경과
that with
그
artist-made
식생군을
look
변화시킨다는
tables
얘기.
that told the planet what color to be at what position.
천천히
But
들어올
that
거.
wasn't going to work with all our new data and our far more complex spawning. Now we have a systemic solution. The planet shader is able to intelligently evaluate what's going to spawn there using the same rule sets that cause the assets to spawn there when you get there. That means we can sample
이게
the
뭐
sort
어떻게
of
보면
color
AI
that that is going to
굳이
project into
NPC
the
AI가
orb
그렇게
and use it. We
그런
get a
의미도
far
있지만
better accuracy
이렇게
from the result.
시스템이 디프트하고 뒷단에서 이렇게
Together, by
생명의
creating rules
행석의
and altering
식생군을
data
바뀌는
that
것 자체가
works, we
AI.
create a continuously varying planet that sets the scene for the incredible exploration gameplay I know you guys are going to have. But how have we done this without compromising on performance?
So yeah, with all this new data sets and these physically based spawning rules, you're probably wondering, how is this going to handle in your CPU? We don't want to melt anyone's CPU, so we've redesigned all of this tech to work much more efficiently than before, and now it can run on many cores. This allows it to be run perfectly well on both the CPU and the GPU. So we've redesigned our framework so that we can run it at both and swap between them freely. Now, the benefit of this is we can do things like, first off, move the terrain system to the GPU, and we've now done that to get some incredible performance improvements, but we then also cache the results in some what we call a virtual terrain texture. I'll just give you a quick demo of this now. This is now vastly faster than the previous system, but it also allows us to generate the terrain in much higher resolution, which means all the popping you can see on the mountains as we're approaching, all of that should be completely eliminated on the right-hand side of the screen.
뭐가 달라진 건지 잘 모르겠어. 솔직히 잘 모르겠어. 약간 디테일해진 것 같긴 한데.
With the extra headroom we've gained by making our terrain system more efficient, we've been able to introduce some improvements, including high resolution ground textures, proper blending between surface types, and of course better tiling. If you're familiar with any of our planets, we've taken off all the assets so you can see the issue. And now how
이건
it
좀 더
looks, you
디테일해진 거
don't see
느껴져.
those lines going at all.
물 시스템이 좀 더 디테일해. 바닥 같은. 이게 원래고요. 레거시고요. 뮤 시스템.
And one more.
이런 거는
With
진짜
the terrain data cached on the GPU, like Ali said, we can
그래픽을
perform the
설정을
scattering
좋게
there
하거나
too, which is significantly faster.
막
All
4K,
those
막
algorithms that
8K로
we've used to
게임하시는
generate those
분들은
first
확실히
bits
티가 나겠는데.
can run there without being more
네.
expensive on your CPU. And it also means
그게 아닌
the
분들은
results are
사실
directly
비슷하게
there
보일
on the
수밖에
GPU.
없어요.
We
별로
can
큰
render
차이
straight
못
from
느낄
them.
거예요. 근데
That allows us to have
GPU로
dramatically more
이런
density in
그래픽을
our new
렌더링 하는 게
system. We
지금
can
CPU에
render
의존하고
objects
있는데
directly without having to go
GPU로
via the
넘어가는
CPU
순간부터
every
이제
frame.
컴퓨터가
We
좀
also cut
덜
at different levels of
부담
granularity
가지겠죠.
with bigger groups in the distance and individual assets up close. Just as a demonstration,
지금은 좀
this is the sort of
말씀하신 대로
density you can
조금
expect
멀어질수록
on microtech today.
로딩하는 게 조금밖에 없고
And in a second, we'll
되게
flip over to what you can expect
펑펑 비기
from the
시작하잖아요.
new upcoming tech.
근데 이게 이제 나중에 바뀌면 이제 좀 멀리서도 가득 차 있는 느낌을 보이는 거죠. 이런 느낌으로.
In a second, we're going to turn on the culling groups debug so you can see. These are the groups that we create of those trees and of the terrain. And as we get closer, we shrink them so we're more intelligently rendering what we need without having to assess each tree individually, all the way down to the ground.
저런데 자초되면 진짜 자기
So
어딘지
to
모르겠어.
recap some of the things you've seen here in phase one, we had data-driven rules based on physically based data, generating emergent biomes that continuously vary across our planets to get infinite possibilities. And we've achieved this with much greater density than before and much faster rendering. And we also achieved seamless transitions from ground to space with zero popping. So now that we've got all this tech, it's time to talk about how art might make use of this. So for that, I'll hand you to the next phase towards Sebastian Schroeder.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. No fisting.
Thank you.
너무
Wow.
근데 숨소리가 너무
Thank
잘
God there's only
들려.
20 of you, otherwise I'd be nervous. Right, thanks for having me. I'm here on behalf of the Planet Content team, and we're very excited to finally show you some of the things we've been working on. As you've just seen from Will and Ali, the system keeps growing in both complexity and capability, so our libraries have to grow alongside it. Wait, should I click? No. No, I should click. Yeah, click. Oh, there we go. So, our goal with the content is to provide the content that the system needs to populate every corner of every planet
퀀텀은
with realistic
이펙트만 바뀌는 게
environments.
아니에요.
And
퀀텀
this content is what this phase of
운용
Genesis is
방식이
all
달라져요.
about. Emergent
단순히 이펙트가 바뀌는 게 아니에요.
biomes.
그거 나오면 뭐 게임이 많이 달라집니다.
For our first example of today, it's almost a shame Will left.
퀀텀 타는데 여러분들 준비가 필요해요. 그러니까 장거리 퀀텀 타려면요. 초반에 퀀텀 그 크루즈 타임 퀀텀이 크루즈 모드로 들어갈 정도 퀀텀이 뭐랄까 안정적인 상태에 들어갈 때까지 계속 함성 컨트롤 해줘야 되고요. 방향성 맞춰줘야 되고요. 그리고 퀀텀 부스트 같은 경우에는 단거리 무제한 퀀텀이기 때문에 방향성 조절하고 속도 조절하고 준비해야 되고 이렇게 퀀텀 자체의 사용 방법이 달라져가지고
Feels like it's
이펙트만
about
바뀌는 게 아니에요.
moisture, but let's look at very high moisture
나오면 좀 머리
and medium
아파지-
to high temperature.
퀀텀 중간 실패하는 분들도 있어요. 퀀텀도 바뀌어요. 퀀텀 부스터랑 퀀텀 트래블로 두 종류로 바뀌고 퀀텀 트래블도 컴퓨터 트래블 내부적으로 장거리 타기 위한 준비 상태와 그리고 그냥 안전적으로 갈 수 있는 상태 그리고 빠져나오는 상태 이렇게 구분돼가지고 이제 ISC 영상에 소개한 겁니다. 우와! 헬다이 버전을 할 수 있지. 그러니까 적응하는 건 문제가 아닌데요. 그 단순히 이펙트만 바뀐 게 아니라는 것이. 그러니까 뭐 바꿔줘 하는 걸 함부로 말하면 안 돼요. 그 바뀌는 순간 뭔가 많이 달라져요. MFD 바꾸고 나서 게임이 달라졌잖아요. 마스터보드 나오고 게임 달라졌고 컨텀도 마찬가지예요. 나오면 게임이 달라져요. 수험, 늪지대.
Thanks, that did look really good. So, for swarms, we obviously made vegetation that feels at home in or near water. But before we dive in, allow me to give you a quick primer on our approach to authoring plants. Most species can survive in a fairly wide range of climate conditions, but will only thrive if the conditions are ideal. To support this concept, we author our vegetation assets to describe the full growth cycle of a species. If the conditions aren't ideal, they may not grow to full maturity or look their best, but the species can still exist. So let's have a closer look.
이제
For the
늪지대
water's edge, we made
수색물이
plants like this
갈대
Alternatera
같은
and
것도
the iris.
시작해가지고 이제
We also need the aquatic ones to float on the
연꽃
water
같은 것도
surface,
있고.
like the water lily or the pickerel weed. This willow and the one after, a Chinese tallow tree, while comfortable near water, we can also use to replace
나무도
some of the
좀
more aged
많이
assets used to seeing elsewhere in the game.
달라지고.
The last one, it's taking a bit longer now, but the last one, I'm gonna wait. The last one, you may not see used much in other biomes, but it's a very iconic one for the swamp, the bald cypress.
요거는 확실히 늪지대 나무 같네요. 잘하는구나. 이때만 해도 사람들이 박수 많이 쳐줬다.
So another feature we need for making
오만
the swamp
박수로.
experience a proper one is water injection. Over the last year or two, a lot of work has gone into improving the way our water reacts and renders.
저 물고기 있는 거 봐요.
naturally, we wanted to make a biome that
물고기
highlights those
물고기 낚시
advances.
나온다는 얘기야.
Let's have a brief
물고기
look at
있잖아.
what it's like being inside the swamp.
낚시 나오겠지.
As you walk or swim through the water, you may come across obstacles like logs or debris floating on the surface.
나무 움직이는
They will
거지.
react to the player character and can be pushed out of the way. We were also pleasantly surprised when we first saw how the water simulation systemically affects assets floating on the water surface, making for some really immersive moments.
서버가 터졌다기보다는 그냥 지금 현재 그 뭐랄까 게임이 전반적으로 너무 많이 바뀌고 있다 보니까 단시간 내에 그냥 지금 최적화가 안 되고 있어. 그러니까 안 맞아 떨어지고 있는 거야.
Now, before I get to our second use case of the day, a quick disclaimer. Obviously, all the things you're seeing here today we're still actively working on, but this one in particular, it's a bit early in the process.
그냥 뭐 현재 코드랑 클라이언트 코드랑 서버 코드랑 다 지금 다 그냥 뒤집어 엎고 있기 때문에 좀
So let's have
시간이
a look
걸려.
at extreme object density next. With the data saying we should have high rainfall and sunlight year round, it's the perfect condition for our next biome to appear.
그래도 PTU는 좀 어저께도 안정적이었으나 오늘은 모르겠어. 정글 빠르게 PTU 거에 PO로 들어오길 바랍니다. 원숭이 나와야 된대. 외계 원숭이 나와야 돼. 파이시 스트로. 아 빨리 이런 행성 나왔으면 좋겠다. 카이로에는 내가 알기로 정글이 없는데.
Considering everything you've just seen is still very much work in progress, the gameplay capture team really did a great job showing our work in the best possible light. With jungles, we wanted to explore the concept of vertical stratification, as they are the prime example for that. What it means is that you have horizontal layers of microbiomes defined by the
아니면 같은 행성 내에서 정글 타입이 있고 늪지대 타입이 있을 수도 있는
with
거지.
the amount of sunlight and rain that
사실
still reaches
지구만
there.
봐도 지구 내 뭐 숲이 하나인가?
The floor,
정글도
herb and
있고,
brush
늪지대도
layer,
있고,
we could
툰드라도
almost do
있고 다 있는
before,
거지.
obviously missing the
지금
density.
만드는 거는 한
But now
행성
we
내에
also
다
have
있는
the
걸
option
수
to
있어.
add variation to the
지역에
tree
따라서
layer by
달라요.
dynamically spawning epiphytes like lianas, orchids, or bromeliads attached to trunks and canopies of other assets.
테라?
With this and improved density is what will finally allow us to make convincing jungles. And the best part is, we don't even need a lot of different species to create what we refer to as a canvas of a biome. The idea being that we can vary what kind of forest you're in by adding or replacing the plants that visually
역시
stand out the
나무분이
most.
오히려 상대적으로 만들기가 쉽다 참. 여러
Now,
종류 만들기 쉬워.
To
에셋들
get us
다
started on
재활용하기 쉽.
certification, we made epiphytes like the Epiprenum and the bromeliad, including a potted version for your hab. Then obviously you need jungles for lianas for a jungle. And we also made the grias, which add character to the herb and tree layer. For tall trees, we decided on a fairly generic rubber tree, as its different growth stages serve as a nice foundation for all height levels. And that's pretty much it, what we need to make a pretty good base for jungle. Now, for our third and last use case, let's pretend the data indicates regular rainfall and moderate temperatures. This climate would support a lot of different forests, but we also wanted to use this opportunity to explore extreme scale. And they're just really cool.
왜 화질이 왜 이래? 잠깐만. 밖에 없고. 아, 여자애 안 좋네. 레드. 우리가 일반적으로 상상하는 판타지 숲 같은 게 이제 레드 숲 같은 거. 자, 말도 안 되는 거짓말. 저런 컨트롤 불가능해요. 이거 불도. 되면 신이 아니고. 운전병.
Now, for this one, we first looked at the different redwood biomes on Earth and tried to analyze what the most defining species of them are. With this understanding, we then decided on the following plants to allow for a fairly universal redwood forest that will easily support variation across continents and planets. A fairly common family of species for the ground levels of all redwoods are ferns, in our case a sword fern. We also made a huckleberry variant to provide some visual density for the shrub layer. To add some Jurassic vibes, we made tree ferns, as they can be found in New Zealand's redwood forests. The most important one, though, obviously sequoias. And they ended up being one of our most complex sets yet. As it turns out, they can grow to be fairly ridiculous in size. It keeps going. Now, one thing our game's foliage is sorely missing is the ability to properly react to what's happening around it. The goal here is to unify all forces from all sorry for the horrible rhyme, all forces from all sources, wind, characters and creatures, ships, explosions, and whatever else, and have the vegetation behave accordingly. Now, as part of our tech improvements, we will be implementing a GPU-based simulation that's fit for our game
이런
scale.
걸 다
For
하려면
now,
진짜
we set
게임이
up the
CPU
firms
베이스가 아니라
with our
GPU
existing
베이스가 돼야죠.
CPU-based one to better
열심히
visualize
바꾸고
what
있는데
we feel like to walk amongst those giants.
게임이란 게 한순간에
Also,
탁 하고
with the
바뀌기
biomes
쉽지
on our
않은 거야.
planets now being defined by where an individual object wants to appear, you can expect a lot more happy accidents by having species invade different biomes, making for some unique locations, hopefully. Surely. Now, before I get to disappear off stage, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody involved, especially my team in Frankfurt for doing such amazing work and being all around great people. And also to all of you guys. I really hope you have a fantastic CitizenCon. This concludes this phase of Genesis, so please welcome Ian to the stage so he can tell you all about the next one.
첫 단계에서 제네시스 기술은 이제 환경과 온도, 습도, 대지, 토양, 지형 같은 거 다 고려해서 식생군을 알아서 바꾸는 시스템을 넣을 겁니다.
Hello, CitizenCon.
어떤 같은 행성 내에서 어떤 곳에서도 정글이고 어떤 곳은 늪지대고 어떤 곳은 일반 숲이고
Those new planets and
어떤
biomes were
곳은
pretty
툰드라고
right.
막 이런 식으로 되겠죠.
But it's time from phase 3 civilization to give you some stuff to do. So, let's talk about location density. We've emulated nature as well as we can to make sure our planets are physically based and realistic, and our biomes are emergent. But it's time to start
GPU로
populating
랜딩할 수
verse.
있게 게임이
Because
바뀌어야
workers,
들어올 수
people,
있으니까
they're their lives and
서버
the
배식 이런
structures
게
they
중요한 게
build.
아니라
So it makes sense that whenever you go and explore these
DLSS라든지
planets,
불칸이라든지 이런 게
you
이런 게
find
먼저 들어와야
their
돼.
lives.
이런 게
And
들어와야지
what's
할 수
even
있는
more
거예요.
important is that when we make these structures,
지금
that they use
보여주는
them to follow the same rules as our
지금부터 보여주는 건
biomes, such as
모르겠지만
the
그 전에
jungles
보여준
and the
거는
swamps.
이제
But
그래픽
before
최적화가
we
더
continue, let's
돼야지
first
나올
take
수 있는
stock as to where we are now. At the moment in the verse, we have these custom, beautifully made locations.
그런
Such as
환경들이
Ghost
구축되고
Hollow,
나서
we've got our distribution
인류
centers,
물명에 관련된
or
이제
even just some
물건들이
outposts. And these have all been handcrafted by our designers and artists to hit that benchmark. And they've been working directly on the planet. However, going forward, this doesn't really scale with how we want to go forward with the game. Server meshing is about to arrive, and we're going to have a way higher player count. So those 73 bunkers across Stanton just won't cut it. But in general, it's also pretty barren. There's not much for you to explore and find stuff out there. So there's no exploration gameplay. You haven't really put your character to use for the way that you should. So this means we need to go bigger, which means we need to change our workflow. And with any workflow means we need to first establish a new benchmark. So, with our new benchmark, we are ensuring quality and improve on our previous work and make it even better. And any location that you'll find needs to have its own unique personality and no repetition. We don't want you to find the same location twice. This also means that this is your exploration and your findings. So when you go out there and explore with your Carrack or with your Corsair, is that whatever you find, you can share with your orgs or with your friends. As for that density, if you fly down to the planet, we want you to find something, let's say, every 100 clicks. But also improve the mission experience. So when you stay more on the planet, you're more immersed and you go from location to location. Just keep going.
그러니까 원래 이게 뭔 말이냐면 기존에는 그냥 컨텀 포인트 있는 것들만 들어가고 지상기지 숫자 정해져 있고 이랬잖아요. 그런 게 아니라 뭐 랜덤으로 뜨든 뭐 고정형이든 모르겠지만 여러분들이 직접적으로 찾아야 되고 그 찾은 위치를 여러분들이 개인적으로 저장해야 되고 네 그런 위치 네 특이한 뭐 지상기지라든지 뭐 시설들이 뭐 거의 100km 단위로 조금씩 있다는 거죠. 딱히 컨텀 포인트에 찍히지는 않지만.
So going forward, we are modularizing all our existing locations and assets. And we're basically making a library of buildings and layouts that we'll be using to no longer work directly on the planet.
안녕하세요.
The neat thing, all these modules and assets can be iterated upon and tested right in the editor for all the designers and artists to ensure fun gameplay and interactive sandbox activity, and also make sure all the mission stuff is there. Basically, we're building a toolkit. So let's look at some of the things that we need to keep in mind as we are making that toolkit. First and foremost,
자, 그래서
we've got our art style and branding.
들어와서
We've got things like
그,
Frontier for our
제네시스 테크 1이
settlements.
들어와서
We've got high-tech
뭐
for
이제
the
행성 내에
emergency
어떤 지역은
shelters,
정글이고
but also
어떤 지역은
utilitarian, like
늪지대다.
our bunkers and distribution
늪지대는
centers.
사실
The richer the data,
지하기지가 있으면 좀
the richer
이상하잖아요.
these locations will
물,
be.
물로 가득 차 있는 숲인데.
Secondly,
그러니까 그런 데는
they all have a
약간
function. We've got
약간
mining for our
구조적으로
mining
떠
outposts,
있는 뭐 기지가
farming for the
있다든지
farmsteads, or just
아니면 이제
places where people live.
정글
The
같은
function
데서는
of the
반대로
place will define
되게
the way the
감춰져
place
있는
looks as well and
지하기지가
its form.
있다든지 뭐 이런 느낌으로 이제
And last but
지역에
not least,
맞춰가지고
the
또 이제
people as well,
문명의
faction and their loadouts.
문명의 그
We've got
기지들을
lawful
넣는
people like
거죠.
the new citizens
그
for
기지들은
prosperity and
여러분들
pyro,
직접 찾아야 되는 거고
unlawful such as
컴퓨터 타고 가고 이런 게
xenofred,
아니고
and sometimes not even no one. And the place needs to look a bit, derelict. In different places, you'll
아,
find
중요하지
different
않아서
people.
얘기한 거예요.
So, now that we've made our toolkit and we've defined all this new stuff, let's start building thousands of locations. Yes, I said thousands. So,
뭐 지금 얘기한 거는 이제 행성 내에서 최소 수천 개가 있는 거죠. 100km당 하나니까 행성 둘레가 정확하게 얼마인지 모르겠어요. 행성마다 좀 다를 테니까 어느지 모르겠는데 이게 기본적으로 스타시티즌 행성들은 좀 6분의 1 정도의 스케일링 다운이 되어 있거든요. 실제 행성 크기 대비. 그러니까 강대서 지구라면 실제 지구 대비 한 6분의 1, 10분의 1 수준으로 작게 만들어요. 왜냐면 게임이니까. 현 시점 똑같이 크게 만들 수 없잖아요. 그래서 근데 그런 사이즈임에도 불구하고 어마무시한 부피기 넓이기 때문에 거기에 그 지상 기지가 막 현재 뭐 정확하게 얼마 있는지 모르겠습니다만 많게는 뭐 70개 정도 있는 것 같아요. 그래가지고 그 정도밖에 없어요. 달리 말하자면 여러분이 나중에 수천 명이 같은 서버에서 플레이를 할 건데 한 행성에 기지 갈 수 있는 게 70개밖에 없다는 거예요. 말이 안 되잖아. 그러니까 얘네들이 목표하는 거는 행성마다 거의 뭐 100km나 뭐 수십 킬로 단위에 특이 지점이 있는 거죠. 인류에게 뭐 지상 패드라든지 뭐 마이닝 시설이라든지 뭐 NPC들의 흔적이라든지 아니면 현재 뭐 작동하고 있는 집이라든지 뭐 아니면 뭐 연료 보급 장소라든지 뭐 이런 식으로 주유소라든지 이렇게 특이한 장소들을 그 환경에 맞춰서 계속 이제 한 행성을 완전 꽉꽉꽉 차게 만들겠다는 겁니다. 근데 그런 장소들은 이제 현재와 다르게 퀀텀을 타고 가는 게 아니라 여러분들이 돌아다니면서 모험을 하면서 찾아내고 그 찾아낸 장소 포인트를 기억해놔가지고 여러분들이 이제 친구들한테 공유를 하거나 본인들 개인적으로 사용하던가 뭐 아니면 남한테 알려지기 싫으면 잘 감춰놓던가 뭐 이런 식으로 해야지.
to avoid the same issue of working on directly in the planet, I'd like to introduce to you Starchitect. What Starchitect allows us to do is directly on a
기술 이름은
planetary scale scatter all
아키텍트랑 스타랑 섞었습니다. 스타키텍트.
these new libraries and modules and assets and no longer work directly on the planet. And it uses the same logical rule set as our emergent biomes. And it also gives us full control over the data that we set on these locations. So expect locations in places where they make sense. Let's kind of
그러니까 개발자가 뭐 신도 아니고 수천 개의 시설을 집어넣을 건데 합리적인 시설을 집어넣을 건데 그 지역에 맞춘 거 그거를 일일이 개발자가 만들어서 집어넣을 수가 없잖아요. 그러니까 에셋들, 그러니까 기본 형태는 당연히 모델러들이 다 만들겠지만 그걸 이용해서 이제 이 스타키텍트라는 기술이 시스템이 알아서 그 환경과 토지의 지형과 뭐 기후에 맞춰서 시설들을 알아서 집어넣는 거죠.
look at all this new
자동화 시스템입니다. 자동화 행성 만들기 시스템.
Genesis data and all these new libraries and chuck it into Starchitect and see what it gives us.
아크콥은 그래서 아크콥이 그 지하 인던 시스템이나 지하에 있는 그 오물관 같은 거를 만든다고 예전에 다른 영상에서 설명을 했잖아요. 왜냐면 그 아크콥 특징이 그 다른 지상기지를 만들기 힘든 거여가지고 그래서 아크콥이 특이하게 그런 게 나오는 것 같아요. 인스턴트 던전 같은 게 시스템이 아크콥에만 있는 게 나중에 다른 것도 나오겠지만 아크콥을 위주로 만드는 게 그런 이유가 있지 않을까. 대신 다른 일반적인 행성들은 이런 식으로 랜덤한 지상 포인트들이 있는 거고.
As you can see, we're now able to make full-size locations and they will look completely different based on where you'd find them. The layouts are controlled by the rules and it will reflect its place.
이런 식으로 뭐 조그만 이제
Universe.
마을 같은 게 있는 거죠 이제.
We've got farms, mining outposts, but even our older locations such as the bunkers that you found on Stanton.
벙커도 이렇게 주변에 여러 개 있을 수도 있고. 숨소리가 너무 녹화가 잘 됐어. 긴장했으니까 발표자들.
So,
근데 물론 아무 기지나 만들면 안 되니까 기지 유형들도 있는 것 같습니다. 이제 부터 설명하는 건 그런 것 같아요.
let's look at an
기지라는
example
표현은 좀 이상하고 뭐 시설, 지상 건물.
and kind of use the tool to really, make a location. We can define the rules as I've mentioned a couple times by now. So for our mining outpost, it wants to be near a resource. We can specify what this resource needs to be. But we can also give suggestions where sometimes you'd find it here and sometimes you wouldn't. If the
가운데서 이런 것도 가능한 거예요. 뭐 이거는 저의 상상력의 영역이지만 여러분들이 뭐 일단은 퀀텀 마크로 알려지지 않는 뭐 특정 그 기지가 아닌 알려져 있는 기지가 아닌 뭐 알려지지 않은 기증을 뭐 우주 뭐 행성 표면 날아다니다가 발견했어요. 갔는데 여기가 내가 원하는 광물들을 채굴하고 있는 광물 기지였던 거야. 거기 NPC들을 그 키오스크를 통해 가지고 광물 사다 가지고 화물 날릴 수도 있는 거죠. 나는 남들은 발견하지 못했지만 난 발견했기 때문에 거기 기지들을 그 기지에서 나오는 광물을 계속 사가지고 무역할 수도 있는 거고. 그런데 그런 것들도 있는 거고 이제.
Location
여러
has
가지 가능성들이
refineries, it might want to be near water to refine the resources. Then secondly, we can define what buildings should be there. So obviously we need mining buildings.
근데 이제 이런 거를 이제 쉽게 찾고 그 찾은 기지의 그 특성을 확인하기 위해서 아마 탐사선이 쓰이지 않을까. 탐사선 역할은 이런
Houses
걸
for
쓰이지
people to live
않을까.
as well, and even power buildings that we can leverage
레이더도 더 좋으니까 더 감지 잘할 거고 뭐 이런 거
with the
아니겠어?
resource network. Starchitect will intelligently figure out where to place these and what needs to be at the location. Next up, farms. Its rules, well, temperature. Not every plant can live in every temperature, but the same with soil type. Only
그러니까 이런 팜류의 농장류의 기지가 있으려면 그 농장 위치한 지역에 뭐 흙이 되게 좋은 상태고 환경이 되게 좋은 상태고 그런 지역에만 생기는 기지라는 거죠.
certain plants can be in
아무 데나 생기는 게 아니고.
certain grounds. And then we can query the seed map to determine
그
what
자라는 작물들도 그 환경에 맞춰서 그 되는 작물들만 자랄 거고.
plants you would find there. What are the harvestables? As for the targets, again, farm buildings, obviously.
우리 가서 이제 서리하면 되는 겁니다. 돈 주고 살 필요가 뭐 있어? 다 서리하면 돼. 겁나 서리하는 거야.
Power buildings, houses, but even animals such as our beloved quasi-grazers. And last but not least,
함선 자연 지역도
derelict
있는
ships.
거죠.
We've got these all over the place currently. Rules, well, they'd be close to anti-air because I would be shot down. But even in harsh flight conditions such as mountains or low visibility, you'd probably most commonly find them. Targets, well, crash ship parts, of course. Sometimes you'd find the full remains of a javelin, and the other time you might just find the nose of a starfare laying around. So, let's talk about coherency. Sure, we can scatter all these locations everywhere on the planet, and you'll find them in places they make sense, but we can do better. You don't just want to find an outpost completely on its own, right?
제가 했던 얘기 나오죠. 일관성 있게 이걸 뿌리고 싶다. 아무 데서나 막 나오는 게 아니다.
We want to make sure it really feels like people have built their lives here. So, let's talk about some missing bits. We want to tell tighter stories, such as the people's lives, but also logical exploration. If I find one thing, I expect to find something similar or something else nearby. We also need more data control. What defines one mining outpost being different from the other ones, aside from the harvestables? And also give the narrative developments. Make sure people build near rivers, on mountains. They build near town halls. They build near distribution centers. So to hit that bit of our benchmark, we make sure that locations are near each other.
일단 기본적으로 우리가 쉽게 상상할 수 있는 게 특정 그 목표 특정 뭐 농작물이라든지 아니면 광산이라든지를 위해서 만들어진 기지 근처에는 그거와 비슷한 기지들이 있을 가능성이 높잖아요. 그런데 뭐 여기 철강지대다, 철강산 지대다, 철강석을 캐는 뭐 지상 기지가 NPC 지상 기지가 있겠지. 그 옆에도 다른 기지도 뭐 철강석 캐기 위해서 있지 않겠어요? 그렇게 연관성 있게 만드는 클러스터 개념을
and group them
설정하고
together. The effect it gives is a fully developed landscape with vistas and points of interest all over. And we group them together in what we like to call a cluster, like this one, that has 13 locations.
작은 클러스터입니다. 디스트리뷰션 센터를 기준으로 유통센터를 기준으로 주변에 뭐 관련 비슷한 시설들 혹은 비슷한 채광물들을 채광할 수 있는 시설들이 있고 거기에 뭐 유통센터로 모여가지고 유통센터에서 거래를 할 수 있고 뭐 이런 식으로 이제 구성이 된다.
Let's talk about clusters. Clustering means generating locations near other locations. So, for example, if you find a distribution center, just like in the verse currently, I would find forward operating bases next
네, 디스트리뷰션 센터가 있으면 그 옆에는 네, 뭐 방어 시설들, 포워드 오퍼레이팅 베이스들이 있고.
to them. But if you go even further out, you'd find
이제 마이닝 포스트, 이제 그 채광 시설들이 있고.
mining outposts to funnel those resources to the FOBs. Go out even further, you'd find caves around them because that's where they might find some of the gems. And then we can even specify the data on a cluster level. All of the factions that live at this whole cluster, any mining outpost, that would be the same people.
그리고 요런 지역구는 이제 디스트리뷰션 센터는 주인이 다 있잖아요. 기업적인 주인들이 그런 기업이 운영하는 전반적인 이제 지역일 수도 있죠. 이제. 걔네가 그 기업이 운영하는 보안 NPC라든지 아니면 그 기업 관련된 NPC들이 출몰하고 이제 그런 식으로 이제 게임 구성되는 거지.
But also what commodities they sell, to find on what resource you'd find. So let's look at an example of the clusters. We have our mining cluster. Again, we can define what rules we should have. Rules, well, near a resource, just like our mining outpost, but also it needs to be on a lawful planet. We can target on a planetary scale where they would need to be. They need protection. As for the targets, well, caves, mining outposts, but even trade posts. Let's go to the other side of the spectrum. Before I do so, I forgot data. We can, on a cluster level, specify, again, what mineral commodities, but also what harvestable types you'd find are in that region. Now let's look at the other side of the spectrum, an unlawful cluster. What rules? Well, they need to be far away
아까는 이제 좀 합법적인 기업이나 합법적인 행성에 지어져 있는 클러스터 얘기한 거고.
from any other cluster,
불법적인
because they want to be isolated and do their evil deeds on their own.
혹은 이제
And
불법
also on an
세력들의
unlawful
이제
planet, such as somewhere in the
cluster
Pyros system. For the targets, outlaw outposts, crash ships because they would shoot them down, and also ruins from just places they just completely overrun. The data on this one, you'd find specific loadouts, and they'll be using weapons that you wouldn't find in any other legal system. And these weapons will be sold at the shops in these regions. So, now that we have a cluster, let's go even bigger. Just like our locations, we can put clusters near other clusters, and we group them together, ranging between 10 to 15 locations each. And we group this into what we call a sector.
이 정도 규모가 되면 이제 섹터래요.
Like this one, that has about 120 locations. However, on a planetary scale, we can define how many sectors we should have,
저런 식으로 행성이 가득 차는 거예요.
with each their own data and persona. And every single one of these locations is now ready for the mission system to hook
그리고 이제 이렇게 되니까 여러분들이 미션을 받아 가는 지역은 전부 다 겹칠 가능성이 거의 없어지는 거죠.
up and give you gameplay. And for you to find a bunch of places on your own.
그리고 그 지역을 여러분들이 가보지 않은 이상 거기에 있는지도 모르는 기지들이 엄청 많아질 거고.
And just on this side of the planet, can you guess the number? We've got about 3,042 locations.
한쪽 면에만 3,000이 있고 반대쪽 면에는 어느 정도 더 있을지 모르니까 그러니까 뭐 어느 정도 계획을 잡고 있는지 모르겠는데 행성당 기본적으로 수천 개 단위의 작고 큰 기지들이 있다는 얘기입니다.
And again, this means as Starchitect, we're just able to, on a planetary scale, just define how many locations we need, what you'd find there, and to just give that full identity. Thank you for listening. And I won't just see you in the verse, but I'll see you in a denser verse. However, this was only the first phase of civilization. Let me introduce you to the stage, the person who will introduce life at these locations, Francesco Raccucci.
긴장이 안 될 수 없겠다. 저 수천 명 앞에서 발표하는데 긴장 안 될 수가 있어.
So, hi everybody. Benvenuti a Citizencon. So, where are we today? So, my name is Francesco Raccucci, and I'm the director in CIG. Welcome to the next step of phase 3. We will look into how life adapts to the laws of nature.
그 행성에 있는 모든 지상 기지를 다 알아야 되는 거 아니니까요. 뭐 저도 모를 거고 여러분들도 모를 거고 뭐. 진짜 매니악한 분들은 뭐 일일이 다 셀 수도 있겠죠. 다 돌아다니면서 행성 지도 그리는 분들 있을 수도 있어. 그런 분들 아닌 이상 뭐.
And how all the NPCs can interact pretty much with this.
그리고 임시적인 기지들도 있을 거란 말이죠. 그 영구적인 게 아니라 특정 상황에만 보였다가 사라졌다 이런 것도 있을 수도 있어. 인스턴트 던전 개념처럼.
incredibly vast and dense worlds that we just saw. So up to this point, we have seen how we are building the worlds. We start from the physical data set, and this is to make sure that what you see is not just
그래서 저렇게 달리 말하자면 저게 단순히 합법 행성만 이런 게 아니고요. 그러니까 합법 시스템의 행성만 그런 게 아니고요. 파이로 같은 그러니까 무법 행성계에 있는 시스템도 뭐 저 정도 수준까지 뭐 빡빡할지 모르겠지만 어느 정도 그냥 있긴 있다는 얘기란 말이죠. 뭐 마을이라든지 조그만 뭐 도시라든지 아니면 뭐 채광 뭐 자원 채굴 기지라든지 그래서 그런데 여러분들이 중간에 여러분들의 기지를 지어야 되는 거예요. 그렇다면 생각을 해봐요. 우리 유저들 입장 모르는 유저 입장에서는 내가 상공위를 지나가는데 저 기지가 유저 건지 NPC 건지 알 바야? 알 수가 있어? 뭐 되게 특이하게 생겼거나 뭐 유명한 세력의 기지라면 알겠지. 그게 아닌 이상 뭐 개인 기지들은 여러분이 직접 여러 좌표를 노출하지 않는 이상 몰라요. 알 수가 없어. 저게 NPC 세력이 만든 기지인지 유저가 만든 기지인지 뭐 하는 기지인지 직접 가서 판단하지 않는 이상 모를 거고 기지가 워낙 주변에 많기 때문에 여러분 거 하나 핀포인트에서 갈 가능성이 되게 드물단 말이죠. 그래서 그런 걸 생각해 봤을 때는 여러분들이 걱정하는 이런 PVP적인 기지 파괴적인 형태는 웬만하면 잘 발생하지 않습니다. 되게 운이 더럽게 나쁘지 않은 이상 랜덤 공격도 잘 안 나갈 거고
beautiful and realistic, but also physically accurate.
발견되기도 쉽지 않고
So the distribution of the elements that we have seen and the location and the POIs are influenced by geology.
아무튼 이런 거 보고 있으면 상상 여러분들이 너무 가끔씩 너무 나무만 보시는 분들이 있어요. 그걸 보지 말고 숲을 전체적으로 보면 생각보다 이게 그 행성의 건축이랑 뭐 이렇게 NPC들 시설 배치들랑 이런 걸 다 연관돼 있으면 뭔가 이게 게임이 완전 생각하는 거 달라진다라는 거를 좀 보시면 되게 좋아요.
Narrative and the lore. Those locations cannot be lifeless. We want the planets to basically leverage the space that emerge with life. So from an AI perspective, I will categorize the elements of those worlds into 4 macro groups. Emergent environment, that is everything we have just seen being built out of the physical data set. Users-made locations. So this includes everything that our designers or you players will create in the world. So something that is mankind-made and not predefined in the environment.
그러니까 환경적으로 자동으로 있는 지형이 있을 거고 유저가 직접 만드는 건축물들이 있을 거고 내부 인테리어가 있을
Interior
거고.
of those locations. Now, this is very connected to the previous point. The difference is that they represent usually a confined space where there is much more tight interaction. And for NPCs, is a lot about interaction with objects that we are usually used to in our everyday lives. And then the day and night cycle. So in essence, the passage of time. That so far didn't have really a lot of impact on the gameplay. So to allow life to respect this world and conform to the rules that this environment defines, well, we want to improve our tools and workflow, and we want to distance ourselves as much as possible from a designer-driven approach. This is because, first, it's labor-intensive. It can be prone to bugs, but also because the scale of the worlds that we've just seen are very hard to be, designer-driven in the markup. So we want to be the best option, because with these worlds that are heavily impacted by users and changes and customization, it's very hard to know in advance where interesting things are. So today I want to show you a couple of examples of what the IT team has been focusing on to make these systems supported and scale correctly to support these vastly dense dynamic worlds. So we'll look at perception in light and dark environments and dynamic cover generation. So, attacking an outpost now must have a level of depth that goes beyond what we had. So layouts of the environment can change, vehicles may or may not be present.
네, 특정 시설을 쳐들어가는 걸 가정하고 지금 설명을 하고 있는 거예요.
NPC can be
거기에 뭐가 있는지 판단하는 거를 먼저 이제 그러니까 정찰을 해야 된다는 얘기지.
anywhere. And if it's a bright day, well, we will be more visible, but our enemies will also be more visible. And if you choose to attack at nighttime, well, we'll attack in
그래서 낮과 저녁에 따라 밤에 따라서 NPC들이랑 여러분들의 그 시야도 달라질 거고.
shadows. During darkness, it's going to be a bit harder to see our enemies, but we will also be harder to be spotted. And it will give us more opportunities to be stealthy and sneaky. How do we do that? So as you see, there is also a lot of different light conditions in this outpost. So in this scenario, we will start look at how perception is impacted by the day and night cycle. On the planetary surface, as we've seen in the outpost, natural and artificial lights are the two elements that will impact vision. And knowing that, you can use this to leverage your gameplay style to exploit basically all the environment. So what is perception? On the NPC level is the combination of data that we collect out of the senses. And vision is one of the senses and just tries to, in a way, simulates the human side ability. So designers can already tweak the perception in different ways. And one way is defining how quickly NPCs can understand what they are seeing. And the light condition have a direct impact how quickly an NPC will fully understand, for example, if there is an hostile in front of them.
밝기에
And
따라서
obviously,
NPC가
there is
인식하는
condition
범위가
of light that
달라진다는
designers
얘기입니다.
can control, and some others, like
이렇게 얘기하고
the day-night cycle, that they can't.
조명에 따라 달라진다.
So in this video, we'll see two main elements.
저는 저 낮에
The
되는 쪽에
graph on the
인식하고
top
있다.
left and the two colorful cones. The graph on the left basically represent the current light level the NPC is in and the current multiplier this light level generates to speed up or
앞에
slow down
장애물이
the
있으면 저게
NPC
막아지고.
perception and understanding. The two cones instead represents the primary and secondary FOV. The red color means that if you stand in that location, it will result in NPC reacting the slowest to you, and the green color instead represents the quickest response. So during the night, NPC will have a hard time to understand and foresee and see things. But if they have flashlights on their helmets, they can turn it on, and this will impact their primary FOV, making still the
빨간색이 안 보이는 거고요. 초록색이 빨간색 가까울수록 안 보이는 거고요. 초록색 가까울수록 잘 본다는 얘기입니다.
peripheral vision a bit more uncertain.
NPC들도 자기 헤드라이트 켜고 안 켜고에 따라서 시야도 달라질 예정이라고 합니다.
And as you see here, first of all, the NPC is patrolling with his domesticated friendly copion. This is because he wants to exploit the vision, the night vision capabilities of the animal, and it's kind of our tier 0 pets. So we will now look at the cover system. That is the next dynamic things that I want to show you. So when we introduced planetary navigation mesh the first time, our goal was really to create a systems that would support and process the environment in a very dynamic way. Our planets are just way too big to statically export them and process them, first of all. And then their regions only exist when somebody's there and the NPCs are there. So essentially, environment has its purpose only when life exists. Also, let's keep in mind that even if we could export dynamically and statically those planets, so processing dynamically all a static version of the planet, this would be, first of all, wasteful and on the memory side and time-consuming. And also because we have a lot of runtime modification of the terrain, this would require us to still reparse it at runtime, and pretty much that will be almost all the time. So to generate the cover data, we want to leverage the navigation mesh system. And what we do is, as you see here, the blue polygons are basically where NPCs can walk, and the green ones are what we call cover surfaces, that are our simple representation of the environment, what NPC uses to understand if they can hide behind something and if they can shoot from some positions. So up to now, we have an approach where designer would be a designer-driven approach. Designer can define in the locations where cover was interesting. They could mark it up, either the location itself or prefabs, and then with a special entity that would just sample dynamically the environment, but would still be designer-driven. This is obviously a good approach it's also a standard approach in gaming industry. But what about all those organic and inorganic
약간 지루한 파트네요.
elements that get
대충 알겠죠? 단순히 시설이 만들어졌다 끝이 아니고 거기서 이제 뭐 지형에 따라서
scattered with a new
AI들도
system.
달라질 거고
Like if
효과도 달라질
designers
거고.
wants to iterate on these ones, for example, and they want to change the physical
설명하고
data
있는
sets,
AI
those scattering
다이렉트라
tool will just
AI
change
또 설명을
completely the
미리
layout. And what we want is that designers can do this change without being afraid of doing it
신나가지고
because the
그냥
gameplay was, predefined and controlled. And now they can just make something beautiful but also fun. Besides that, yes, we did have a prefab approach where you can build stuff out of small building blocks. This is obviously a good approach because it's, in a way, you can build stuff out of smaller version, but this creates a lot of unnecessary data. Imagine a crate, and we can say that the crate can generate cover. Now we stack 100 crates, and what happens? That we have a lot of data to generate cover that we have to process, throw away. This would just waste CPU cycles for nothing. This is why, until now, you also couldn't find an NPC in a forest like this one and see them hiding behind a tree or a rock. So enabling the dynamic generation of covers on the
이런 장애물인식
planet allows
AI가
us to
들어오면
exploit all the elements of the
NPC들도 이제
environment.
돌 밑에도 숨고
Whenever navigation mesh
나무 밑에도
generates,
숨고
NPC can now have a chance to
알아서 잘
fight with
숨는다,
you
얘기는.
hiding behind available elements. Boulders, rock, walls, and all are all useful elements right now. However, we don't have to limit ourselves to static geometries, but also vehicles
NPC들이 차
can be
타고
used for
돌아다니는
cover.
거
And
빨리
as you can
봤으면
see, this is dynamically generating while the vehicle moves. So be careful where you park your Ursa, because now it can become a source of danger for you as well. Last but not least, these systems can be just used on all the different type of navigation mesh we have, so not on the planet, but also, for example, the interiors and everything you guys construct. Because obviously, you guys will build your own locations, but you don't really mark up stuff, or you don't want to decide that, because that's going to come automatically out of the system. So I want to show you
역시 약간 이분은 어느 나라 사람인지 모르겠는데 이름만 봐서는 약간 이탈리아사 계열 이런 거거든요. 남유럽이다 이탈리아 계열인 것 같은데 역시 이쪽 계열 사람들이 말이 많습니다.
What I want to show you now is just like a little bit of insight of what goes behind the scene when we generate cover and navigation mesh. These are some of the steps that our system does. So we always start from the environment voxelization.
환경을
What that means
확인해서
is we process the geometry, the
뭔가
physical representation of the geometries
지형적인
that is a little bit
확인을
simpler
확인해서
than
블락을
usually the render
확인해서
mesh, and we construct it
블락들의
in a
벽면을
voxelized approach.
확인해서
This is also
네,
using
그거를
different types
NPC들이
of agent
AI들이
definition.
인지하는
Why
이제
so? Because
장애물로
obviously where a
인지시키는
human can move is not the same as where a vehicle can move. So we can define different type of
저런
precisions
거
and
이용해서
then speeding up
NPC도
the process
움직일
where
뿐만 아니라
we have to or be more
NPC들
precise
차량 같은 거
where we
움직이는
cannot be
것도
to.
막
And we can also
조절하기.
create overrides based on different things. For example, if you crouch, you can enter into smaller locations than where you stand. This process is basically common between navigation mesh and cover. After that is generated, then we can evaluate the voxel in different ways. For example, defining where we can walk. So can we make the step with our foot over a specific voxel? Or is there something in front of that hole in the NAM mesh so that we can actually cover behind? And then we can basically decide where to generate cover surfaces. And after the cover surfaces are generated, we can process where the cover locations are. Cover locations are a good spot for NPC to be behind the cover. So what we see here is that with the introduction of Maelstrom last year, obviously we knew this would revolutionize how you guys are playing. And we did have to find a solution to handle all the destruction you get to do. So you got so much stuff in this world that we had to find a solution, right? So this is why we approach the cover generation navigation mesh as it is, because there is just no way for us to predict anything that you're doing, and we want just Maelstrom to be another trigger for word evaluation. So as you see, this is all dynamically generating. And destroying anything just makes the word be reevaluated. So as you see here, we can have also lots of rules, so you can see that over here.
자, 쉴드 보호받지 않고 같은 샤드에 있는 건물에 그 공격받기 시작해가지고 그냥 A2 같은 폭탄 한번 떨어지면 그냥 다 박살나.
First they invalidate, and then when they rest, for example, we can decide when is a good moment to regenerate, so that we also don't waste too much CPU cycles. The color that you see is mostly cover quality. So you see the light green is high cover, the dark green is low cover, and then we have the red that we introduced some time ago that is basically not really good cover, but if there is nothing better, well, it's better to be behind something than being in open space. So let's just recap. What we want to do is finding a plan and having a good plan to approach life in this vast universe. What we want is the life to be able to systemically evaluate all the dynamic environments that is generated. We want to improve our workflow, not only to support designers and being faster, but also to support all your guys' creations. So we want the life to adapt, and this is all for making the game fun for you, so that everything comes together. So thank you all. This was phase 3. And now, let's welcome Ben Parry, that will introduce you guys to phase 4 of Genesis.
그래서 언제 나오는 거야? 페이지 1만 해도 언제 나와?
Hello, SitizenCon.
머리 스타일 제일 멋있었던 분이.
Sorry, someone's changed my lines. Welcome to Phase 4, Light and Sound. Now, we've seen already automated systems for automatically placing different biomes, different
야, 저런 머리 스타일
vegetation, settlements, and people. So now we're going to take the same
내가
approach
저거 하고
to
회사 나가서
automatically
회사에서 어떤
handling
의미로
light
받아들여?
itself.
궁금하다. 한 번쯤 해보고 싶다.
First of all, why is this important? Well, it's not always obvious, especially when they do their jobs as well as they do. But there's an incredible amount of attention from the lighting artist that goes into all of the locations that we have in the game. Besides just marking up the reflection probe areas, they also manage the visuals really carefully, adding fill lights, approximating bounce lights off ground and up into ceilings and dark corners where there aren't any direct lights pointing, really. And the problem is, not only does this take a lot, if you've got a place location,
말이 많아.
put a lot of little lights around, and you've got the sky. Skylight to vary.
중요한 말 아니었던 것 같아.
So this is the forest as you'd see it without the GI system. As you can see, all the shadows are receiving lighting from the same environment probe, so it's basically just a flat color across. We replace that with around 40,000 mini ray trace probes. Each of them has their own view of the sky, and so that gives you way more contrast and variation as you move in and out of the canopy.
좀 더 현실적으로 지어라.
Now, there are a couple of other pieces of the puzzle that we've been working on over the last year. Now, the first is, well, all the stuff that you can't stick 40,000 mini probes onto. Anything that doesn't have an opaque surface, we can't really know where it is on the screen and track it from frame to frame. But if we don't do anything, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. We've got fog, we've got particles, we've got the other little things, I don't know what they are. And so we need something to do with those. So to address this, we've added a kind of stable grid of medium-y kind of probes that are generated around the player as you move around. So that gives us approximately matching lighting that we can apply to all of those things. Now, this is a little bit difficult to illustrate in normal scenes, so for once I've been making my own levels. As you can see, Pico's in trouble again, but because the lighting team hasn't helped, you can't see anything in most of the scene. If you add the transparency GI system, suddenly the whole scene comes alive, and this is something that we could never have done
방어 효과는 아무리 바꿔도
until we added this tech.
막 달라지는 것 같아. 뭔가 조금 바꿔도 금방 티가 나고 오히려 전반적으로 바꾸면 좀 잘 티 안 나.
Now, the other piece of the puzzle is glossy reflections. Now, we've got a fair few shiny objects in the game, you may have noticed. And we've got the same problem that if we fix the lighting on one thing and then the reflections don't match, it's going to look terrible. Also, ray tracing reflections is really cool, and we wanted to do it. And the challenge here, though, is that
확실히
the ray
엔진
trace
쪽 발표는
reflections
좀
you're
지루한
going to do,
편이.
they're not just mirrors. Like, we've got a whole range of objects in the game, from like a scuffed hull panel all the way up to...
제가 가끔씩 컨셉 함선 리뷰를 하잖아요. 이번에 파이오니어 컨셉 함선 리뷰를 하려고 영상을 대본을 써보고 있습니다.
Chrome polished
여러분들 그런 거 관심 많잖아.
pipes, and we want the same system to apply
시티즌콘에서 나왔던 내용 위주로 해가지고
globally across that. So I'm going to do an uncomfortably short breakdown on what this tech looks like and how that comes together. So here's what we need to beat. Now, obviously, it reads as shiny, but there's this kind of fakeness to it.
반짝반짝.
It kind of looks a
그렇죠.
bit like it's flying.
조회수 빨아먹기 좋은 함선.
So let's see what the ray tracing looks like. Yeah, it's
ray
really
tracing이
noisy and
하프
horrible. We need to
레졸루션.
clean it up.
저는 근데 이런 쪽에 기술을 잘 몰라서 설명하기 어려워. 이건 뭐 이런 건 그래픽 쪽 잘 관심 있고 혹은 거기 종사자하신 분들은 잘 아시겠지만.
So what we do is we let pixels share their data
뭐 이게 피터링 거기가 점점 현실적으로 바뀐다. 뭐 이 정도만 그냥 보는 거지.
in space,
잘 몰라.
and then also in time to clear up the final image. And then we let the
그래도
game's
지수
normal
약간
anti-aliasing just kind of clean up the last stuff and
어딜
carry us over the finish line. And that's how you make a chrome penguin. Now I'm going to
이런 거는 진짜 해도 바로 눈에는 티가 안 나는 것들이잖아요. 이런 거는 왜냐면 본인들이 아무리 열심히 만들어도 유저 컴퓨터가 성능이 따라오지 못하면 티가 나는 부분도 아니고.
derail
참
for a moment
어려운
away from
분야인
the
것 같아.
topic of Genesis because this isn't
개발사
actually
입장에서도 여기 어느 정도 투자해야 되냐 이런 건 문제도 있을 것 같고.
just about automating the lighting for new environments. This is also about pushing quality in areas that have already had all of that work done by the lighting team. We're freeing the artists up to light more naturally, allowing the time of day shifts to be embraced rather than fighting against them. And as I'm about to show, players and NPCs are going to reap the same benefits as well. So here we start adding natural areas of light and shade and warm and cool colors. These open areas benefit in the same way as the forest scene did,
여기 왼쪽이 새로 나온 거.
adding areas of shade and areas of open lighting.
근데 현재 그래픽도 솔직히 말해가지고 우리가 근데 익숙해져서 그렇죠. 나쁜 건 아니잖아. 막 뭐 엄청 떨어지고 이런 것도 아니고 그냥 현 시대에 맞게 적당한 수준으로 괜찮게 있잖아요. 특히 그거를 여러분들이 뭐 그래픽 옵션을 되게 빡세게 줘가지고 이제 막 4K까지 막 출력하게 하면 이제 더더욱 괜찮아지고. 근데 여기서 이제 더 세밀하게 들어가겠다는 거니까 이게 결론적으로 근데 그래픽이 세밀해지는 것도 중요한데 이제 그 현재 제일 중요한 건 사실 그거죠. 렌더링 시스템이 CPU가 아니라 이제 GPU 베이스로 넘어가야 된다는 거. 그게 제일 중요한데 그거 딸리는 기술의 일종인 것 같아요. 왜냐면 이렇게 세밀하게 만들려면 이제 CPU가 컴퓨터 그래픽 처리하면 안 되니까 이제.
The time of day shifting leads to different ambience as
그거 완전 다르고.
the sun moves.
글로벌 이물.
And this is the shot that I just liked. Finally, let's see how the new GI system can brighten up your character's day. And also their day as well, whoever they are.
그래서 뭐 엘더 스크롤 같은 거 모딩 많이 해보신 분들 알겠지만 광원 효과 뭐까냐에 따라서 게임이 완전 달라지잖아요. 단순히 그래픽 패치 안 해도. 네, 그런 느낌인 것 같습니다.
Well, I promised you light and sound, but I don't actually know anything about sound. So here's the man who does, Graham Phillipson.
이번엔 소리 쪽. 그래요? 뭐 사람 취향이란 게 사실 내가 뭐 옳고 그런 게 없잖아.
Good afternoon, SitizenCon.
바뀌는 것만 있는 것뿐이지. 결국 뭐 보다 보면 또 이게 이건 것 같고 저게 저건 것 같고 아마 그래 뭐.
I've been at CIG nearly 10 years, and this is the first time I've done this. Very exciting for me. So, do you want to make some noise?
소리 쪽 참 좋더라. 요새 글라디우스 엔진 소리 바뀌고 이런 것부터
Sound isn't
시작해가지고
as fast as light, so it takes me a
점점점
bit to
바뀌는
catch
것처럼
up.
괜찮은 것 같아요.
Jared wrote that joke for me, so you can blame him. Says it right here, blame him. So now we have a huge amount of visual and interactable content. Locations, biomes, populations, planets, and systems. And now they're all beautifully lit too, thanks Ben.
이거는 최대한
But how do we
정지 없이
paint this
볼게요.
world with sounds?
현재는 일정한 편들은 비슷하게 나요. 근데 특정한 편들은 좀 다르게 나고 이래요.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge of scale. We need to support multiple star systems, and
여전히
it's a challenge of quality. We
멀리서부터
want the
에코가
highest
들리는
quality possible.
거는
We also don't want implementation to hinder creativity, and we want a seamless experience. So we're asking a lot.
But with Star Audio, we can rapidly implement audio for entity classes,
또 스타
brushes,
오디오.
or audio sweeteners,
앞에 스타가 나.
all of which can be reused and reflected immediately across the game, including all of those emergent locations we talked about earlier. So again, this is Genesis data driving what happens in-game. And we can do all this without
지금부터
breaking
3%
flow.
가능해요.
So
지상에서
here's a
FPS
fairly
상태로
dry video.
걸어다니시다가
It gets more
멀리서
exciting
함성
later, I
오면 뭐
promise.
근처에 오면 소리 들리기 시작.
Showing you our rapid workflow. So over on the left, had to think about that, we have the Wise editor, that's where all our sounds live. In the middle, we have Star Audio editor, and on your right, we have an entity that needs some insect sounds on it. So we can very quickly
벌레
drag
사운드.
from Wise to Star Audio. We can mark up very quickly a bit of logic, and we can re-trigger this entity's spawn sound so that it immediately makes a sound.
빗소리 소리가.
I assure that is a group of insects. Thank you, you're too kind. If you like that one, you'll like the ones that come later. But there's a little something missing. So to add some realism, sounds respond to how they move, how you move in the world and how they move relative to you. So we need to change the frequency as their velocity relative to the listener changes. This is known as the Doppler effect. In simple terms, the pitch dropping as something whizzes by. Or, in even simpler terms, now, sound designers traditionally needed to implement their own Doppler sounds. But given how fast we can travel through these rich, dense locations and the sheer number of them, we can't afford to be doing that any longer. So we've created a systemic Doppler solution. And I'm going to show you that now, the only way I know how, by putting a big Benny noodle machine on top of a mountain.
이제 멀리서 들리네.
So you can hear the pitch and tempo changing as we move relative to the Benny noodle machine, and this is all fully systemic, no special treatment for this sound. And I expect the noodle bar to be very busy after that commercial. So, how does it work? Well, the listener is surrounded by variable time delay buffering, not the horrible kind of buffering you get on the internet. This is a really nice kind that helps the game sound good. Each buffer represents a section of the sphere around the audio listener, and the audio is mixed into these buffers at a position that is appropriate to the object's position in the world. Changes in the position are applied to the delay buffer by interpolating the audio data. But that's not all we're doing here. Now, I know there was a bar citizen yesterday, so some of you may not be thinking as fast as you might normally, but you may have realized that by buffering the data in this way, we're not just creating a speed of sound, we are not just creating a Doppler effect, we are indeed, and I just spoiled my own line, creating a speed of sound effect. So, introducing systemic speed of sound to the game, I now have a couple of minutes of video, and we go through rapid fire, looking at some fantastic examples of what this brings to the game, starting with a spaceship pass by that is supported tonally by the systemic speed of sound.
아직 한번 들어봐야지. 제대로 들어오면.
Okay, sounds cool. What about weapon fire? So let's bring in a sniper and, unfortunately for the sensitive of heart, a Pico. We're going to hear this first from the perspective of both with no speed of sound effect. Okay, so that's, if you were at the Pico perspective there, that's how you'd hear it in game right now. Let's hear it with speed of sound enabled, and this time we're just going to listen from Pico's perspective.
피코 입장에서.
So Pico's down before he even hears the shot. But don't worry, he's not dead. Okay, let's finish him off. Now he's dead.
그래서
And as the
속도에도
voice of Pips power up,
소리에도 속도가 있으니까
I need to get some proper placement in. So there's one more example for
쏘고
you.
나서 음소거 초과한 일시적으로
Now finally,
돌파하니까
not
소리가
finally,
뒤로
we have ship
옮기는
weapons, so listen to the
그런
fire
천둥번개
rate as the
효과가
ship
있네.
approaches the camera here, giving you a bit of a sense of threat. It's not too easy to tell what's going on there, but you get an increase in fire rate. Finally, the really cool stuff, explosions. So we can put a cinematic element, a shockwave element, and a delayed speed of sound effects. And that's way too cool to do just once, so we're going to do it twice more from further distance. So again, cinematic effect first when you see it. Shockwave. And the explosion itself. This is all completely driven by parameters in the game, so we can do this for real. Whenever you drop a Moab. One more. That's pretty cool. So the speed of sound simulation gives you a better sense of distance, it improves the sense of speed, and it supports those amazing cinematic moments. So, in summary, we're trying to make the game more immersive and respond to all this Genesis data and make it feel more real. And that's not all we can do. We can make sounds respond differently to changes in atmospheric pressure and resultant changes in temperature. So, for example, the sound will travel faster in extremely hot, high-pressure environments. We really look forward to getting this in game for you
게임
and
내에서
getting you enjoying
기본적인
it
이제
at home.
생활적인 실생활적인 소리들이 달라.
That's all from
더 세밀해진다는
phase
거지.
4 of the Genesis cycle, light and sound. So I'm going to hand you back to the amazing Ben and Ali to bring us home with the final phase.
이런 식으로 제네시스가 천천히 도입된다는 얘기입니다. 제일 처음에 들어오는 거는 지형적 온도, 환경, 기후에 따른
So, as Graham
지형적
says,
변화.
this is going to be the final phase of Genesis, and it's called Nature's Wrath. And this is where we're going to bring the very planet itself to life. So, first off, let's start talking clouds. So clouds have got an atmosphere, have got to be one of my favorite visual features of our game, and they're truly awesome, but they're also completely static. Nothing has changed with them. So what we want to bring with Genesis is the evolution of clouds over time. But this isn't just some simple scrolling animation. We use the same physical data sets that drove the biomes we talked about earlier and Starchitect, and these are also now driving a physical simulation of the clouds so they can form and dissipate in realistic conditions. So this means things like the oceans, the prevailing winds, mountain ranges, and the temperature will all impact the clouds. But to complement these more dynamic clouds, we've also improved our lighting model. So it now correctly accounts for how light scatters multiple times inside a cloud. And this is important, creates much deeper lighting, and it can contrast against the sun's rays, resulting in much more vivid cloudscapes like we see on the left here, something we're all too familiar with in Manchester.
Now, it would be awesome to bring this into context and show it on an actual location. Let's take a look at a quick scene to round this up. It's a nice day on the surface, but something's different.
이거 너무 좋았어. 동남아인
The
줄 알았어.
clouds are moving,
구름이
but they're not just
움직이면서
moving. They're
구름비를
forming
비를 갖고.
naturally in changing shape. They dissipate as they
가만히
glide
앉아서
on the
조금만 구경할
atmosphere
수도 약간
based on
뭔가
wind data.
재밌을 것 같아.
Stratus
게임
and
실제
cumulus
도입했을 때
alike.
그냥 내 집 지어놓고
Now
가만히
we start seeing the
앉아가지고
new cloud shading model come into play.
노래
We are
들으면서
seeing enhanced occlusion
비가
beneath the
오려나
cover, emphasizing the sunbeams, how it interact with the clouds, and seeing the light shafts peer through the layers. Now, as this is closing in,
멍 때리는 게임, 멍
we can
게임.
start to see the changes in visibility of the area.
이야.
Light precipitation is starting. Previously, we authored static cloud shapes, but no longer. We didn't manually place a volume here. Its presence has been informed by Genesis data. Oh, and it's not just a cloud volume. It's a weather front.
번개도 친다고.
Now we're trying to see the wind picking up. Terrain and rocks are getting wet. Vegetation, grass, and the overall
땅이 젖기도
environment
한다고.
are responding to the weather. The system
바람도
is
분다고.
changing the world around us. We can see puddles being formed
영상 콘텐츠는
dynamically in the
원래부터
dirt,
도입
properly
예정이었어요.
responding to light, reflections, and
당연히 있는
rain
건 줄 알아요.
droplets, making it's getting really ominous and loud in here. I can feel the danger. I think we should let this play out in the game.
아 빨리 돌 때서 이거 보고 내가 직접 보고 왔으면 좋겠다.
Weather is supposed to be fast on this location. Conditions are deteriorating. Severe items. We need to leave now. Get back here.
광고. 진lik이 참 문제가 있네. 광고 밀었어요.
I'm getting out of this suit now. Powering up, flying out. We'll need to switch to IFR. See you on the other side.
IFR 같은 소리 하고 있네. IFR 없으면 IFR이 관제사가 있어야 IFR이 되는 거지. 이 맘대로 IFR 아니야? 오로라를 타선 안 돼. 번개 칠 때는 오로라를 타면 안 돼. 친구야 안 돼. 내가 미래를 봤다고. 저런 거 움직이기 시작하면 개빡세. 바람 효과가 저렇게 움직여. 저거 이거 서버랑 상관없이 우리 컴퓨터가 문제잖아요. 서버가 뭔 서버는 데이터적으로 불려주면 되는데 서버가 뭔 상관이? 우리 컴퓨터가 상관이지. 우리 컴이 뒤지는 거예요. 컴퓨터 업그레이드 하세요. 제가 3년 안에 바꾸면 되죠. 안돼! 돌아와! 오로라 돌아와! 안돼! 오로라 돌아와!
It's getting very sparky up here. Recommend deviation.
오로라 돌아와! 안돼! 아! 쉴드 까진 거 봐. 근데 이런 제우스 이런 빨간 스킨이 있었어? 나 이거 볼 때마다 아까부터 그 생각하거든? 제우스에 빨간 스킨이 있었네. 저 제우스 스킨 누가 가지고 해? 어? 누가 만든 거야 저거? 왜 우리는 안 줘 왜?
Wow!
주황이었어?
Man, that's what we call the Falco maneuver to get out of there.
내가 못 본 거.
Ali, please break this down for us. What did we just see?
Yeah, so that was a combination of lots of tech we just saw that all combined together to make a really great cohesive experience. So we started with the cloud simulation, which wasn't really a cloud simulation, it's a weather simulation. The rain will appear not at random, but it's based on physically plausible conditions, so you have real weather fronts evolving across your planet all the time. We have a host of visual effects, like the rain, and then they have
이렇게
the
광원
atmospheric
효과
scattering that you
달라지니까
get under the
되게 잘
columns of
어울리네.
rain. We had the puddles and the splashes and all of this type of visual effects. We saw the wind developing over time, and that introduced turbulence to the flight model, making flight very challenging.
비행 모델도
And then, of
바뀐다는
course, we
얘기.
saw the lightning,
바람에
which
비행이
plays
흔든다는
havoc with your instrumentation. But direct strikes will damage your ship, and of course, some storms will be dangerous enough to be fatal, as Ben's unlucky Aurora just found out. And these storms will sometimes be short-lived and localized, but others will be larger and potentially permanent on some planets.
지금 얘기하는 것 중에 하나는 이런 임시적인 뭐 환경 변화도 있겠지만 전 뭐 경우에 따라서는 365일 번개 맞히는 행성도 있을 뭐 달 같은 것도 있을 예정이라는 얘기죠.
This is going to restrict access via flight.
그런 데는 이제 진짜 뭐 캐럿 같은 탐사선 타고 들어가지 않는 이상 못 들어가는 거지.
Forced to resort to ground vehicles or even foot. And this is all going to be dynamic, meaning that you might find yourself trapped in some really unexpected situations. So we really can't wait to use all these mechanics to open up many new gameplay opportunities for all in the verse soon.
사실 번개라기보다는 그냥 어떻게 말하면 그 뭐 거의 그 뭐라지 그 뭐 음전화 현상 같은 우주적 현상이 그냥 행성 상공에 펼쳐졌다고 그렇게 이해하시면 데미지가 엄청나게 줄 수 있다는 사실이 느껴집니다. 단순 그냥 현대 번개가 지구에 번개 치는 것 때문에 함선이 침몰한다. 이거는 솔직히 좀 말이 안 되고 그냥 우주적인 현상 중에 하나라고 봐야죠. 시프에 잡죠. 좀 사실 그 제국의 형제가 부르는
It's your
번개였어.
job as a pilot to compensate and stay on course. All right, what have we learned today, guys? We've shown you an approach of encoding the rules of nature into planetary data. We've seen biomes emerge from geology, temperature, humidity, climate, weather, the physical terrain. We create denser, more diverse
이런
living
게
planets
다 합해서
without
제네시스다.
artists' hand.
그러니까 이런 환경을 순식간에 그 만들 수 있는 그 시스템이 지원하는 시스템 뒷단에서 그게 제네시스다.
Placing or manually creating biomes, instead leveraging asset
일일이
mapping.
개발자가
We've shown you a
설계해서
new
하는 게
way
아니고
to make the game that can
알아서
scale,
시스템
to
뒷단에서
create
그냥
thousands of
돌아가게
Korean
돌아가게
places for civilizations
돌아가게 하는
on
게
planets
이제
that can be used for missions or immersion gameplay without art and design, hand placing locations, leveraging world design rules instead. We've seen how populations of AI and NPCs inhabiting locations dynamically adapt their understanding of the environment without custom markup by developers, allowing the creation of more playable
저도 제일
spaces.
긍정적인 케이스는 말씀하신 그거 맞아요. 그러니까 닉스는 이미 거의 다 만들었고요. 캐프테라는 이제 화이트 프리프로토시 상태잖아요. 실제로 아예 개발이 시작 안 된 건 테라 하나뿐이거든요. 뭐 테라도 뒷단에서 개발 시작했을 수도 있어. 그래가지고 그거 이제 각각 마무리하는 거 1년씩 잡아가지고 저도 최고의 베스트 케이스는 3년 뒤에 1.0 시작된다는 거예요.
Rapidly.
뭐 베스트
We've
케이스.
shown you how light and sound also benefit from Genesis data to influence
지구
planetary
행성,
environments.
그러니까
And we've
태양계가 나오는
shown how
거는
these systems come together when weather comes into an area changing.
태양계는 그 현재 뭐 계획이 바뀌었는지 모르겠는데 그다음 옛날 계획은 도시가 총 3개 있어요. 뭐 모든 도시가 다 있는 게 아니고요. 내가 알기로 뉴욕 그리고 북경이 상하이인가? 상해 그리고 하나 더 있었는데 하나가 뭐였지? 러시아 모스크바였나? 뭐 아무튼 이렇게 하나씩 3개밖에 없어요. 일단 기본적인 계획상으로는. 근데 나중에 어떻게 바뀔지 모르겠어.
Your gameplay experience significantly. Our goal with Genesis and all of its systems is to create more worlds, better worlds, faster, by applying our tech wizardry and craftsmanship to build systems
3년
that
뒤면 카봉님 연세가 50세라고요?
respond to data.
나누기 3하세요.
That's our Star
제
Engine
나이.
presentation for today, guys. For this
50 나누기
year,
3하세요.
have a great CitizenCon. We'll see you in the next one.
아무튼 제일 재미없었던 그러니까 제일 먼저 했기 때문에 당시에는 제일 재미없다는 생각을 안 했는데 이게 돌이켜보면 제일 재미없었던 프레젠테이션이었습니다. 게임 엔진 쪽은 역시 조금 뭐랄까 이게 확 와닿는 게 없어요. 마지막 장면처럼 영상으로 이렇게 보여주고 이러지 않는 이상 뭐 이거다 이런 게 느낌이 잘 없어가지고 좀 뭐랄까 좀 미묘하긴 했습니다만 아무튼 이것도 엄청난 큰 변화기 때문에 들어오면 매우 행복하겠죠. 그래서 긴 거 1시간 반짜리 봤네요. 길게 많이 봤네. 근데 이게 이 엔진이 제일 재미없는 거였어. 네. 돌이켜 보면. 그래서 배치는 잘했어요. 프레젠테이션 원래 재미없는 것부터 시작해가지고 계속 재밌는 것까지 끌어올리는 게 텐션 유지하는 게 좋잖아요. 근데 아주 구성 자체는 아주 잘 좋았다. 그 다음 이제 여기 이제 파티 플레이 관련된 이제 영상인데 요거까지만 보고 오늘 방송할게요. 요것도 매우 중요하죠. 사실 이게 더 우리 게임적으로 우리가 이게 더 중요해요. 왜냐면 우리가 앞으로 멀티크루를 강제하는 게임인데 스타시티즌이라는 게 그걸 어떻게 좀 더 멀티크루를 쉽게 할 거냐, 파티를 어떻게 빨리 찾을 거냐 이런 이야기이기 때문에 이게 훨씬 더 중요하다. 실제 게임 플레이적으로 이게 훨씬 더 중요하다.
Hello!
Hello.
Can you hear me?
네.
1, 2. All right. Cool. Okay, so in the Star Engine presentation, that was Benoit. In this one, I
마침내
am
게임에
Balt,
마침내 MMORPG다운 기능이 제공됩니다.
my player persona. I will now channel my inner Jared in this one, and I will be your host for this panel. Woo!
나 요새 내가 만들 조합 이름을 정하려고 지금 고민하고 있어. 카복 NOYE 유니온 아니야. NOYE 띄고 JO 합 HAB 조합이 되는데 조합이 아니라 합은 어떻게 해야 되지? HOB로 해야 되나? HOB 사실 고민을 열심히 하고 있어.
It's time to discuss a social universe. But before we start, I have a couple warnings. First one, let's take a look at this one. I took this in our last technical preview demonstration.
이거 이제 시티즌 시티즌이 아니라 서버매식 테스트 할 때 공개 테스트 할 때 보여줬던 장면이죠.
And God, I was so happy to see all these people on the train. It just made me like very, very emotional. And so I want to take a moment to thank every one of you that have participated with Tech Preview Server Meshing Test A, B, C, D, and E so far. You guys have been thousands to come and help us test this technology. And the team and I are really humbled, and we feel energized by your energy. So on our behalf, thank you very much. Now, the above picture is really nice, other than this guy, but it does present a problem. A fundamental part of playing a massively multiplayer online game is how you connect with other players, to join in on adventures, or to receive support when you want to get out of a tricky situation, or you want to participate in endeavors that are bigger than yourself. Or
니들만 4.0 플레이하지 말고 우리도 플레이하게 해줘라. 서브매싱 도입하라.
simply you want to run a business and make a profit. Well, as our game server shards grow,
서브매싱이 들어오면 이제 유저들이 많아질 거니까 한 서버다 보이는 서버인데 어떻게 파티를 맺을 것이냐 이런 이야기입니다.
you will encounter more players, and for that, we need to scale Star Citizen's social tools to MMO size.
MMO 다운
Our ambition
시스템을
has
만들어야 된다.
always been to build a grand social system, including not only the game, but the world outside, like on Spectrum. Unfortunately, the focus has been elsewhere for a long time. We have neglected this side of the game in favor of others. For example, the Comlink app is by far the oldest application in Mobiglass. It's now time to correct this and make progress on this plan. Our goal, as a reminder, in Star Citizen is to cater to all types of players. Star Citizen in that respect is not a black or white. It's not an either-or kind of game. We are not an achievers versus casuals game. We are not a socializers versus solo players game. We are not a role players versus mechanics focused game. Or dare I say, we are not a PvE versus PvP game. We are all of those things. We strive to build a social environment in the game that is easy to engage with, consistent and dependable, and trustworthy.
그러니까 뭐 이빨 터는 거긴 한데 자기네들은 특정 목표를 가지고 있는 뭐 PVE 전용, PVP 전용, 뭐 아니면 멀티 전용, 뭐 혹은 뭐 FOIP 전용 혹은 뭐 전쟁 전용 뭐 이런 게임이 아니고 그냥 세계를 만들고 있다면은
where you can judge danger, safety, or shadiness.
여러분이 할 수 있는 거 다
And we
하라.
want this to be
열린
deeply
공간을
rooted
만든다.
in gameplay mechanics,
다
like
할 수 있어.
reputation and progression. So today we're going to take a look at the updated Star Citizen social tools and how they tie into the game. But first, look at this guy, a warning. What we're going to show you is very early work. And we will not be making a revolution or breaking boundaries. We just want to bring our game up to MMO standards. Or like Jared likes to say, bringing our 30th century game into the 21st century. And so in order to do this, we've enlisted some help. First of all, throughout this presentation, all the screenshots are made from you, the community, directly pulled from our community hub. You're going to see some player names on screen. Most of them are all of our most die-hard Evocati members. And for this, we should really take a moment and thank our Evocati members for their renewed support. They're always there for us. They get the worst and worst of the builds, and they do good power through. This is an actual shot from the last Evocati. Forget the prisoner mentioned here from the work mines. And so, I'm not gonna lie, this presentation is gonna be a lot of mobiGlass. It's not super flashy, but focus on what the tools will allow you to do and their impact. But for this, I need some help myself. So I'm gonna make a party, and I'm gonna get some developers to help. So let me first invite our senior systems designer, Gabriel Hector.
Hello, CitizenCon. Hope you're doing all right. And Ben, you forgot to cover the Swedish before in your earlier introduction, so tjena.
Ah, nice. All right, we need some more.
야, 스웨덴어로 안녕은 해주는데 한국말로 안녕하세요 할 줄 몰라? 이것들이 정말 빠져가지고 정말. 뭐야, 소리가 갑자기 안 나. 니아오는 했으면서.
My spot's quite far away.
Yeah, no,
일본어도 안 하겠어.
Walk out.
Okay, so social universe begins with your friends. That's
10%요? 10%가 뭐야? 1%는 되나?
your closest group. It's the first go-to when you want to play. Our current friend system is dated, and it includes things that are, well, not really friends. So my first question goes off to JJ to kick us off. What are we doing to improve friends and friends management?
So, we're taking our oldest app in the mobiGlass, the Comlink app, and we're upgrading it to a brand new social app. And this is now going to be your one-stop shop for all of your friends and group gameplay. Now, this is the new and improved friends list.
친구 리스트에서 저렇게 친구 상태를 확인할 수 있죠.
So, you'll notice, sadly, one of our oldest friends that we all have is missing, though, and that's ATC. Sadly, our friendship has ended with ATC.
What?
ATC는
no
친구
friends
차이가
at
안 돼.
all then.
So this is now just a dedicated space for your real friends. So you're now going to be able to see what those real friends are doing with richer presence information. So giving you better awareness of where your friends are, what they're doing, or if they're not on, when they were last seen. And then you'll also be able to reflect your own
친구 이름이 라라나이트예요. 얘는 캐로 가야겠는데.
status. So you can let friends know if you're away, don't want to be disturbed, or if you just want to hide offline for a while. Another key upgrade is synchronizing with Spectrum as well. So you'll be able to see friends that are in Spectrum itself, Arena Commander, or just chilling on the launcher. And that also means that you can accept and receive invites to and from Spectrum even while you're offline. And throughout this presentation, any functionality that is shared between the game and the web and the launcher, we're aiming to synchronize across.
앞으로 그 스펙트럼에서 받는 친구 추가 같은 것도 게임 내 자동으로 추가되고요. 네, 반대로 게임 추가한 것도 스펙트럼에 자동으로 추가되고요. 네, 스타시티즌 CIG가 서비스하는 웹 게임뿐만 아니라 인터넷 웹페이지 이런 거 다 연동돼가지고.
And speaking of synchronizing, when
여러분들
we
오프라인 상태에서도 친구 추가 넣을 수 있고 이런 식으로.
have multiple characters, your friend.
그리고 여러분들이 지금 방금 중요한 거 얘기했는데 한 계정당 계정 캐릭터 10개 가질 수 있어요 이제
Will be
이게
shared
어떤 의미를 가질지 저는 아직까지 상상이 잘 안 가는데.
across all of them too.
Nice. So some people are real socialites. I know I've seen them. They have a lot of friends. I'm talking multiple pages and pages of friends. What are we doing to help management of huge friends list?
Nice humble brag, Ben.
제가 생각하는 그건요. 한 계정으로 동시 접속이 되지 않을 거니까 여러분들 캐릭터를 각각 여러분들 생각하는 중요한 지점에 하나씩 두는 것이. 그래서 여러분들 경납고만 관리할 캐릭터. 혹은 여러분들이 지금 여러분의 지상기지가 있어서 지상기지에 갖다 놓고 지상기지만 관리할 캐릭터. 여러분 실제 우주에서 플레이할 캐릭터 해가지고 이런 식으로 이제 구분해서 운영이 가능할 수 있다는 얘기죠.
In fact, we are giving you the ability to add notes to your friends list so you can remember, hey, this is that cosplayer that I met at CitizenCon 2954. Or maybe it's JJ's super weird username. This is JJ. Also, you can add people to a favorites list, meaning that the people that you interact with most in the game are always going to be shown at the top of your friends list for your convenience. Additionally, we're moving the voice chat into the social app. And, well, why? Who are you going to call? That's the question. You're going to call your friends. You're going to call your party. So this is where it should live.
Seem to have got a lot of UEC there as well, Ben.
I swear to God, I didn't dupe any cargo. This is just my personal allowance.
Yeah,
Sure.
All right, so that's all cool for your close buddies, but the one thing that always happens when you meet people is that some of them aren't nice. Abusers, pad rammers, active griefers, you know? Currently, we can't do anything about that in the game. What are we doing to help the situation?
So, in addition to the friends list, we're also now going to have a block list.
차단목도 생기고.
We like to think of block people as reverse friends. They're just people that you really don't want to talk to anymore. So,
이유를 적어놨네. 개인 행거에서 트롤링했다. 구조 비컨 띄웠더니 마수 날 죽였다. 자, 세라핌에서 밖에서 나한테 나 부활 애들 막 죽이고 다녔다. 막 이런 적혀있네.
So what we're trying to do is we're doing something called blackholing them from communications. So you can't see them talk, and they can't see you talk anymore. And not only for communications, whenever you see some of these other systems we're about to talk about where you can group up, we're going to make it harder for you to see each other as well. Now we also have a much requested hostile
그리고
list for
아예 처음부터 적대 관계로 표시될 수 있게 뜨는 애들도 있네. 설정할 수도 있네.
people who have made a real enemy of you as well.
The KOS list is finally making its way in.
우리나라 치면 카오스 리스트라고 하죠.
Oh yeah.
카오틱 유저 리스트.
You'll also be able to add notes here as well, just so you can remember that person.
여러분들이 뭐 범죄를 먹든 안 먹든 뭐 그거는 뭐 여러분들의 결정 내릴 상황이지만 뭐 일단 보이는 순간 내 아이 적대자였나 아니었나 이거를 이제 여러분이 설정할 수 있는.
Blocked 2 years ago, you remember why, because you're going to forget. And then for those situations where someone really wants to go the extra mile to be a super mega ass, you can report them to us, and we'll deal with them for you.
All right, so now I have my friends list up to date. I can find my friends easily based on rich presence in real time, and I'm ready to go on an adventure. But for that, I need a party. The party is at the core of the social experience when you're heading into a mission, meeting with other players, or whether they're a friend or not. Our party system is very bare bones at the moment. It does have some cool features, but what are we planning to improve parties?
Yeah, so as you said, it does have some cool features like party launching, the party markers, quantum syncing. It's all good stuff, but let's take a closer look at the new features of the party list. So, with server meshing, we are right now at a unique opportunity for us. So we already support large parties, but we want to do this well. We have been seeing what you do in the tech previews, and people have been partying up in hundreds.
100+ people in one ship? Come on.
And that's all right. We just want to make sure that we're adding better support for this, like search functionality, making it easy to find people in your party. Also, just like we did with the friends list, we're adding rich presence here as well. But for the party, you're going to want more real-time gameplay-related info, like if someone's downed or dead or maybe offline for some reason. A big thing, though, is the ship and seat breakdown. So you will see. Yeah, maybe that's worth applause.
야, 이거 잘 이해가 안 가니까. 파티원 검색할 수 있고 파티 내부적으로 이제 가입하고 이런 거 할 수 있다는 거
So,
아니에요?
you will see all the vehicles that your party members are in, as well as the seat that they are in.
아,
This will
여러분이 뽑은 함선들의 전부 여러 대가 있을 수 있잖아요. 각각마다의 인원수 누가 타 있는지 볼 수 있고 어느 의자에 앉아 있는지 이런 것도 확인할 수 있다.
give you great situational awareness and allows you to coordinate
누가 파일럿 타고 있는지 알 수 있고.
better than ever before. It's essentially a mini fleet manager.
Okay. Oh,
여러분이 함선이 여러 대를 동시에 운영하고 있을 때 네, 그런 걸 확인할 수 있다는 거예요.
so there's going to be more improvements as well. So you're going to be able to control permission for invites. So only your leaders and assistant leaders can actually invite people. So it's no longer an absolute free.
그리고 여러분들이 파장뿐만 아니라 보조 리더 같은 거 만들어서 걔네들도 파티 초대할 수 있고 뭐 이런 거.
For all. And we're adding an absolute MMO staple as well, which is the ready check. So as we add more and more challenging group gameplay,
여기 보시면 알겠지만 파티원 상태도 알 수 있고요. 잘 있다, 뒤졌다, 무슨 상태다, 오프라인이다 뭐 이런 것도 알 수 있고.
you're going to be able to coordinate a lot better. And while we're talking about group play, and maybe it's unwanted group play in this case, we're improving the quality of life for our streamers as well. So we'll no longer have a shard player list. We're going to be obscuring things like your on-screen name and location and so on, just so you're a bit harder to find while you are streaming. And that's the full friends and party tab.
자기의 위치와 그런 거를 가리는 기능도 만든다고 하네요. 그러니까 내가 스트리머인데, 그러니까 저 같은 경우죠. 내 파티원이나 내 친구, 파티원은 모르겠고 내 친구인 사람이 내 위치를 확인해 가면서 나한테 트롤할 수도 있으니까 그런 거를 다 가리는 시스템도 만든다.
Pretty cool.
It's a party for the eyes.
It's a party for the eyes. All right, so the new friends and party place
여러분은 또
is
여러분 위치 발견되기 싫을 때는 쓰면 되는 거고.
really the one-stop shop to manage all your real-time interactions with other players or access your comms channel. That's cool, but as we navigate the verse, it's always very difficult to find people. We have a single channel. People are blasting, looking for groups. It's a bit awkward. You never know what you're going to find. With bigger shards, I know I'm the bigger shards guy now, but we're going to have a lot more players in there. There must be a better way.
Whoa, Ben, we have given this some thought. So, the second tab in the social app, introducing the Party Finder.
제일 중요한 거 이거죠. 파티 파인더.
So, the Party Finder, it's a dynamic system that's going to make it easy for you to find interesting and engaging gameplay. It's basically player-powered matchmaking. So, if you are looking for more players, just go in here, advertise your party, give it an informative name like Ben has done here.
Space Combat Fun Times.
And you could even set things like a specific contract that you want to play, or roles that you're looking to fill. Maybe you need gunners,
이거는
engineers,
옛날부터 제가 필요하다고
pilots.
했던 얘기였어요.
Meat shields.
왜 스타시티즌 이게 없는가?
You could also limit the number of members.
언제 될지 모르겠지만.
You might want to do some, again,
4.0 이후에
specific content. So you want to do with a set number of members in the party, or you might want a tight-knit group. That's something that I would like very much. Maybe you just don't want to split the contract rewards, right? So once you have that information, then it's time to list your party.
And then people are going to be applying to join your group, which is kind of like a reverse invite. You're applying to the party, you're joining yourself, you're getting involved.
You're the reverse guy today.
I'm stuck in one gear. So you can then request, the people that are requesting, you can then look at their information and you decide on whether or not you want to accept or reject them, just so you can tailor your group to the kind of gameplay that you're trying to do. Then, on the other side, finding a party should be easy too. So all of those super cool things that Gabriel just mentioned, so like setting your group name, roles needed, party size, and so on, you're going to be able to use those as filters to find the right group.
뉴비만 오세요. 가로치고 KOR 해놓고 뉴비만 오세요. 지상 기지 미션 중.
And this is all purely because we want you to find the kind of group gameplay that you want to engage in. And it's for all types of players. FPS combat, racing, beacons, roleplay, eating burgers at Whammers, finding cool vistas. It should always be easy to find action, things to do, and people to play with.
So I can create a party from a couple friends. I can party launch into the game on the same shard. Then I can share my party with the party finder. And other people will want to join up. Now we're talking. But I'm
점프 게이트 무료로 타보실 유비 환영. 점프 게이트 파일럿 한번 해보실 유비 환영 뭐 이러면서.
curious, as we're going to get bigger shards, let's say that already. How will we improve communication? It's very much of a mess right now. Our chat's very bare bones.
아니 근데 이거 뉴비 가이드 해드립니다. 들어오신 분마다 만 UEC 기증 말면서 적어놓고 만 UEC 기증하기 위해서 여러분 일단 10만 UEC 먼저 주시면요. 제가 그거 확인해서 만 UEC도 섞어 더서 11만 원 이슈로 돌려드립니다. 아주 온라인에 아주 사람들이 많이 속는 비슷한 유형의 사기극들이 많잖아요. 이 아이템 일단 맡기시고요. 저한테 주시고요. 그 제가 받은 거 확인해서 그걸로 인해서 돈을 드리고 네, 그 한꺼번에 이제 마지막에 다 돌려드립니다.
Let's chat about chats. So, we're adding options for
네,
you
채팅박스도
to
달라지고 채팅박스
customize
달라지고.
the chat window, giving you the power to make the chat your own.
아 그리고 그 지금 막 함선에 연료가 부족한데 각자 17반 해야 되거든요. 그러면서
We're also adding chat tabs.
우주 중간에 둥둥 떠 있으면 아무도
We're bringing back tabs.
We're bringing them back from other games. And this means that you can set up customizable views, filtered for any area of the game that you are interested in. And Ben, you had a UI team make a little mock-up of.
그리고 이제 특정 지역 관광 프로그램 관광 해드립니다 적어놓고 이제 관광지가 해적 기지고 막 해적 중간에 멈춰 있고 막 기다리고 있고 목숨이 아깝지 않으면 만 골드씩 만 유이씩 내시 골드래 만 유이씩 내고.
Some of the other functionality we're adding, right?
I sure did.
여기가 어디요? 여기가 바로 노예 시장인가?
Got them to add the combat login.
That's sweet. How kind of you. So, first off, as we can see here, we're making slash commands actually useful. So no longer just chicken dancing and flexing. It's going to be able to help you send messages to party, to proximity chats with say and /dl commands, as well as sending DMs to other players.
DM도 보냈어.
What the hell, Ben? You said you were going to take
Hey, you wanted a real example.
채팅창 넘어오는데 보기 힘들, 보기 귀찮은 위치에 있어.
So, another thing we're adding is that we're giving you the power to share information more easily via links. So, first off, here we have contract links, taking you to the contract manager for that specific contract.
Cheesecake!
Yes, cheesecake.
Yeah, cheesecake is maybe better than Cenofret. Also, we are adding star map links. Let's have a look at what that looks like.
미션 링크 걸 수 있고 이제 스타
This means that you can
지도
click the
위치에 걸
link
수
and it will
있고.
take you to the exact location in the star map, making it easy for you to group up. Another thing we're adding is item links, and well, you'll see why you want to link items in our Crafting Your Home presentation tomorrow. Lastly, we're adding player links to make it easy for you to connect your friends with one another, right? So
당장 한국어로 번역이 되지 않더라도 한국어 타이핑이라도 되면 참 좋은데 말이죠. 이거 좀 아쉬운 부분이 있어요.
Sean just messaged us.
근데 사실 뭐 한국말만 안 되는 게 아니라 프랑스어도 안 되고 독일어도 안 되고 그러니까 이상한 알파벳들이 있거든요. 이 위에 어퍼스트로피 있고 이런 거 있거든요. 그런 거 포함해서 기본적인 라틴어도 다 안 되고 중국어, 일본어 이런 것도 다 안 되기 때문에 지금 한국어가 문제가 아니긴 하는데.
It's about VoIP. Do you want to invite him to the party?
언젠가
I
다
sure can,
지어내는.
Gabe. We do need an expert to discuss VoIP and FOIP anyway. So you guys give us some air, remember hot mics, and let's invite Sean, Master of Faces Tracy, to join the party.
언젠간 지원할 겁니다. 다 그 주요 언어들은 다 번역해주기로 했기 때문에 스타시티즌 공식 번역 할 거긴.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you all here. So, I've come up to talk a little bit about FOIP and VoIP. So, it's a bit of the communication channels beyond just text chat, right?
근데 게임 내에서 인보이스 시스템도 많이 발전 이제부터 보여줄 거지만 이제 많이 발전하기 때문에 뭐 디스코드 꼭 알 수도 되긴 하고 뭐 이런 느낌 넘어가는 거죠. 있으면 좋지만.
All right, so FOIP and VoIP are our systems in-game. VoIP, Voice over Internet Protocol, and FOIP, which I termed way back in 2019, Face over Internet Protocol. So VoIP gives us spatialized audio where you can hear and be heard within the universe. Whether you've got a helmet on, you've got a different filter. If you're far away, you can hear that they're far away. But we added Face to that way back in 2019. So it's cool because you can place video calls, you can speak and see each other speak in the game, and you can take fun selfies like this. So again, I mentioned, it's back in 2019, so it's been in for a little while, but it hasn't really been updated so much since then. So the cool part about it, and I really got to mention, it's not a replacement for motion capture equipment. It's not a depth camera. It uses pretty much anybody's 2D-based web camera to track your.
요즘 이거를 하기 위해서 뭐 여러분들 필요한 게 막 뭐 아이 트래커라든지 이런 게 다 필요한 게 아니고요. 얘는 이제 CIG가 목표라는 거는 그냥 되게 싸구려 2D 웹카메라 하나 있으면 그거 가지고도 여러분들 얼굴 모양 최대한 따라할 수 있도록 이제 알고리즘적 설계를 하고 있다는
face. So it can do great things, but it's got its limitations as well. What's kind of cool about it is that VoIP and VoIP are actually coupled. They're encoded and decoded together on the network super efficiently, so that it's always in sync. And anybody that's worked on facial animation with audio data knows that sync is super important. So it's been used in expected ways and unexpected ways by the community. Let's have a look.
This is Wallace Klim.
Klim? What is it?
Seems someone's on our case. One of our Ninedales facilities was sacked last night. Total loss. The bunker was destroyed.
Fuck.
And 3, 2, 1, go.
This isn't what they said it would be.
Subject has crossed the perimeter.
Most people don't associate ladies like us with salvage, do they, Shell? That's right, Mel. In fact, we're the best in the whole system at salvage, aren't we, Mel? That's right, Shell. And you look like you get about a bit.
I'll do it. You need a break.
What? No, you're up there in what, your underwear just drinking hooch or something and just singing away?
Wait, we have hooch?
Hi, I'm Natronics, and you're watching Redline, your source for adventurous stories throughout the verse.
The name's Brad. Agent Davina Brad.
Excuse me, Captain? I'm Aaron Baxter.
We topped off yet, Aaron Baxter?
Just about, sir.
Good. I don't want to spend another second on it.
Something we have in common, sir.
Hey. Yeah. It was that day when I met Mr. President that my life changed for the better.
Eat that apple.
Apples.
You were never supposed to know any of this, Detective. You were supposed to die at Safe Haven.
Rachel.
Rachel's dead.
Hey man, I'm back again. You have any hats? Oh dude, I read the cap. What are you looking at, sir? Go away.
좀 과하게 이렇게 눈썹이라든지 눈이 움직이는 경향이 한지
So
있어요.
that was all content made by the community, and I love it. I love it. I think it's awesome, bugs and all. But there's probably some improvements that we can make for that. So one of the big ones that we've made is head rotation tracking. It's actually something we were already doing to do head tracking in first person, but we never could move the head around on the actual character itself, which we've been able to do. Some cool stuff like range of Jared?
Yeah, John?
Can we just, let's just do a fake video call. Can we do a fake video call?
Oh, you know we can do a fake video call, John.
All right, cool. So let's call one of my guys, Oliver Cook. He's been working on some new tracking updates.
Hey Sean, and a big hello to everybody at Sitcom. How's it going?
Hey Ollie, it's great to see you. Everyone's having a great time. I see you're using FOIP. Where are you?
Drive. That's correct. I'm sat here in the comfort of my own home, talking to you via the power of VoIP and my webcam. We've been working on VoIP recently, and we're starting to see some improvements to the quality of the tracking in-game.
That sounds awesome. Can you tell everyone what you've done to improve it?
Well, we started off by looking at what we originally had, and we realized that some mouth poses were really difficult to pull. So we focused on improving the range of motion of the mouth, which now looks like this.
이게 현재 만들고 있는
Hopefully, you can see there's more of a one-to-one relationship with what's going on in my webcam. And this has helped some of those problematic poses we were seeing before, one of which being a closed-lipped smile.
이게 문제가 뭐냐면요. 그 눈을 모양을 너무 따라가다 보니까 뭐 여러분들 중에서 가령 들어서 뭐 눈이 좀 짝짝이처럼 떠 있는 분들도 있을 거 아니에요. 뭐 정확하게 두 개 똑같이 뜨는 분들은 없으니까. 그런 것까지 게임이 다 반영한다는 거야. 그래서 내가 눈이 좀 오른쪽이 좀 덜 떠져요. 왼쪽에 비해서. 그런 것들이 이번에 게임에서 보면 과하게 왼쪽 눈만 감고 있어. 그러니까 눈이 하나 잃은 거죠. 하우돈이 돼버리는 거지. 그래서 그런 느낌의 그 좀 제한사항이 있어요. 기술적 제한사항이 있습니다.
It was quite difficult to achieve previously. We've also started to add in secondary motions that happen naturally when pulling combination face shapes, like squinting in the eyes when smiling or frowning. And when we combine these secondary motions with the wrinkle maps, it really goes to show.
그러면 이거를 완벽한 넥카만 하기 위해서 역해를 고르고 페이스 트래킹을 한 다음에 목소리 변조 프로그램을 통해서 마이크를 통해서 이야기를 해가지고 이제 사람들을 완벽하게 속일 수 있는 거예요. 굳이 그렇게까지 해야 돼 스타시티즌에서?
Show just how much work has gone into these heads. Let's see how many wrinkle maps we can trigger, huh? And finally, one other thing we noticed was the tracking quality could be quite noisy in environments where the lighting is less than ideal. So to combat this, we've introduced tracking stabilization, which helps to reduce the amount of noise we get from the webcam. We're seeing positive results in low light conditions, but we're also seeing a small quality boost in optimal lighting conditions. The result is a more expressive and stable face, which is great for using in-game or making videos in the verse. And we still have a little ways to go with VoIP, but the future is bright for this feature, and we can't wait to see what wonderful things you use it for in the verse.
So, I see you're in the character creator. Let's change how you look.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's change up my appearance here a little bit and see what we can make. The super cool thing about the character customizer is that it continues to track my face even when editing. And this is great if you want to see what VoIP will look like on your character before you commit to your appearance. Let's start off by changing my hairstyle, shall we? We have a bunch of cool hairstyles to pick from, and I used to have pretty long hair back in the day. So let's try and find something longer than I currently have. Okay, that's wild. Not quite what I'm looking for, but what else do we have? Dreadlocks. Super cool. Not what I'm after. Let's see here. There we go. Much better. The fun thing here is with the head tracking, it's much easier to rotate around and quickly see what I'm going to look like. Let's stick with that for now. That looks good to me. We can do the same for anything else in the customizer, but I'm going to go ahead and remove my beard here, because I want to show you that VoIP still works when changing the structure and characteristics of my actual face. We have a lot of heads in our customizer, and I'm just going to cycle through a few of them here to show you that whatever we choose, we're still tracking and we're good to go. We can even start to manipulate individual aspects of the face, with no detriment to the mapping onto the head. VoIP won't break when you combine these heads together. So if you just want to tweak a small aspect of your character, or take on the likeness of one of the heads included, you can do so, and test out exactly how the tracking is going to look based on your face movements in the webcam. You can now see I'm someone totally different, and we're having no troubles tracking. And if I don't like what I've picked, I can always just randomize here, which I think is a great way of not only showing the countless combinations of heads that we can make, but also that VoIP will continue to work with anything that we throw at it. I think I'm looking pretty good here, Sean. What do you think?
Yeah, good. I think it's pretty unique to Star Citizen. Thanks a lot for showing it.
Anytime. And I hope everybody has an awesome sitcom. See you later.
It's pretty cool.
All right, that's great, Sean. But the reliability of our voice transmission has been a bit spotty, with many players reporting quality loss or even full audio loss. What are we doing to improve the overall infrastructure behind VoIP and FOIP?
Well, first of all, we've heard you. We know. We've tried it. And it sometimes works and sometimes doesn't work. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be updating the voice service and a total overhaul of the voice service.
2000배수로 찾는 거가 그냥 안 나와서 못 하는 걸 거예요. 그러니까 뭐가 바뀌었다거나 수치가 바뀌었다 이런 얘기를 못 들었고 그냥 옛날처럼 옛날에는 세비지 테스트해보라고 엄청 많이 근데 자기들이 주변에 막 계속 떴잖아요. 근데 그런 거를 그냥 없앤 거지. 근데 자연스럽지 않으니까. 그래가지고 이제 여러분들이 직접 그냥 미션 받아 하던가 아니면 진짜 함선을 끌고 오던가 누구 터트리던가 해가지고 뭐 그렇게 하라고 이제 바뀐 것 같습니다. 2000배수 자체가 숫자가 바뀐 것 같진 않아요. 제가 확인 안 해봐가지고 확실치 않으면.
Server. This is actually important and we need to do this anyways because we have to update the voice infrastructure for the much larger shards that are coming. So this is going to improve reliability and the voice quality. So one of the biggest things that we're going to be doing for you guys is to make sure that you have feedback in the game for when this is working and when this is not working. When you're transmitting, when you're receiving, you really have to know. So whether that's picture-in-picture, whether that's an icon telling you you're transmitting, these are all going to be things that we're adding as we go forward with these features.
Cool. Good stuff.
What? Am I done?
Should we get Gabe back on?
Yeah, let's get Gabe back in here.
Hey.
Okay, there's room for 4.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people on stage now.
It's a bit crowded, right?
Can we kick Sean?
Yeah, we can.
I think we should kick Sean. Bye, Sean.
Certainly do it.
Bye, Sean.
Bye, Sean.
조이스틱 인식이 안 되는 거는 님 컴퓨터나 조이스틱이 문제고요. 아마 말씀하신 거는 그냥 본인의 입력 이 서버에 제대로 전송이 안 돼가지고 서버 렉이 걸렸다 이런 말인 것 같습니다. 제가.
All right, now we've made some friends, we've joined parties, and we even kicked some people. That's super great. But what if you're new to the game?
Ben, behind you.
Oh! The guide system. So we've introduced the guide system on the web a while ago, and this allowed new players and experienced players
지금은 되게 도움 안 되는 홈페이지 가이드 시스템이 있죠. 이거
to match up, basically for a new player to get training and learning the ropes. Wait, are we bringing it in the game?
Yeah, of course we are.
튜토리얼하기보다는 여러분들이 직접 한 거의 결과물이에요. 여러분들이 컨텐츠 즐긴 결과물, 미션이라든지 그런 거에 대한 여러분들만의 등급이 생기고요. 명성치가 생기고요. 그 명성치 높은 분들은 해당 파트에 다른 유저를 도와줄 수 있는 가이드를 할 수 있어요.
So, ultimately, we want to encourage you all to help one another. And it's very important for a game as large and as complex as Star Citizen is. And while we're improving how we teach you the game, it's irreplaceable to have another player by your side showing you the ropes.
업적자가 맞습니다. 네.
So, we want to keep
명성치가
the
애초에 이미 없었죠, 이거.
guide types from the website, because there's already a lot of good ones there. And they already cover a very wide variety of gameplay. And as we add more game systems, more guide types are going to get added too. And base building's a great example of that, which is a little teaser there for tomorrow.
No teaser, dear tease.
Oh yeah. But now, how do you become a guide? So now there's going to be a list of requirements that you've got to meet. And this list will require you doing content like contracts, beacons, or many other things as well. And ultimately, once you've checked that list, you can then opt in to become a guide. And really, we've done this because we wanted becoming a guide to really mean something, both to yourself, to other players, so they can rely on your experience. But why become a guide? Out of the goodness of your own hearts?
No.
You want to get paid. Some of you love to help, and a lot of you already are. But while I don't have time to get into specifics today, there are going to be rewards available for those of you that do put the effort in.
Because we like to get paid.
You do like to get paid. But ultimately, we want you to want to help.
All
저런
right.
식으로 업적이 있어야
So I've been doing a lot of guide
여러분들 가이드를 할 수
stuff,
있는
and
거예요.
I've reached a guide level in a field that I like doing tons of content on.
여기 뭐 적혀면 적혀있죠. 건축을 시작해서 20개의 빌딩을 완성하세요. 뭐 달성. 그 대형급 컴퓨터 제조 시설을 건설하세요. 완성. 3개 베이스와 3개 베이스를 3개 기지를 3개 다른 행성에 건설하세요. 뭐 이 정도의 업적이 있어야 뭐 땀을
Or
가이드할 수 있다.
I'm a new player and I need training in a key area. How does this all tie together?
되게 빡세 보여.
Let me answer my own question. It ties into beacons, trust, and rating systems. Or as we say internally, beacons, but actually good. Yeah. So beacons have been in the game for a while, but we are
그 건설 비콘이라는 거는 합법 시스템에서 땅을 클레임하기 위해서 있는 거거든요. 건설이라기보다는. 그렇기 때문에 그 웬만한 그냥 무법 행성계에서는 뭐 비컨 같은 거 필요 없이 그냥 막바로 그냥 건축 자재 들고 가서 지을 수 있는 지형이면 무조건 지을 수 있고요. 그 이제 땅을 클레임하기 위해서, 그러니까 유이군한테 세금을 내고 그 땅을 내 거로 소유하기 위해서 계속 그 필요한 게 비컨 시스템이고요. 사실 건축 자체는 비컨이랑 별로 상관이 없습니다.
juicing them up.
Yeah, so let's look at how we're juicing them up. So first off, tying into the guide stuff, we're adding a new type of beacon. So guide beacons. It means that if you are a guide, you'll be able to respond to them. If you need a guide, you broadcast them. And if you need a guide, you can be certain that whoever responds to them knows their stuff. So this is obviously good for new players needing to learn the game. But even seasoned players like yourselves, you're going to have a great use for this because there's always something new to learn in the verse. So you just post your question, you broadcast it out, the guides get alerted, they can accept it, contact you, and once you have the information you need, you take the beacon down, get out there, and use your newfound knowledge.
이거는 굳이 그 가이드가 찾아오거나 이럴 필요 없이 여러분들이 이제 가이드 비컨처럼 이제 미션에다 그냥 마이닝을 적어놓고 여기다 텍스트 적는 거지. 제가 지금 데이마르에 있다. 근데 내가 지금 그 뭐랄까 컨터니움을 찾고 있는데 어느 좌표를 가야 맞나요? 이렇게 적어가지고 이렇게 거기에 가격표 매겨가지고 비컨 띄워가지고 그러면 마이닝 등급이 높은 분들은 그 비컨이 보일 거 아니에요? 얘가 나한테 3만 원 주네. 뭐 데이마르 컨터니움 좋은 좌표 알려달라 그러네. 받아가지고 여기 좌표입니다 하고 보내고 이제 여러분들 3만 원 받고 걔네 좌표 값 받고 막 이런 식으로 이제 돌아가는 거고, 이제 반대로 이제 비컨이 이제 상대방이 그 알려준 답변을 보고 근데 그거 가졌는데 실제로 컨터니움이 많다. 그러면 뭐 이제 별표 뭐 5개 주고 이제 근데 아무것도 없었다. 별표 1개 주고 이래가지고 상대방 그 채점 레이팅 채점 되고 그래서 그런 식으로 이제 플레이하는 가이드 비컨 시스템입니다.
So obviously there's many different types of guide beacons here, but we're also adding more categories.
물론 여기서 필요하면 뭐 만나자 해가지고 만날 수도 있겠죠.
To service beacons.
Now this beacon stuff sounds fine, but let's be honest. I have a friend, not me, but every time they use a beacon, they get ganked. How are we going to do? What are we going to do to make sure that whoever is answering my call for help is trustworthy?
그러니까 응답하는 사람이 신뢰 있는 사람인지 아닌지 어떻게 확인할 수 있냐?
You sure that's your friend and not you? Yeah, okay. So we've got a few ways of tackling this, and one of them is actually subsidizing the beacons. So guilds contribute rewards to the payouts on service beacons, and we'll get to guilds shortly. But that could be money, reputation, or potentially other rewards as well.
Because we like getting paid.
And ultimately, that keeps the cost down for the people that need help, but rewards the people that are helping. And this actually finally makes it viable to do beacons for whatever profession you like to do. Medics, refuelers, and repairers, just to name a few. But if you misbehave and you fail the beacon, there's no payout for you. So that's one incentive. The other is that we're adding a proficiency rating.
그러니까 제대로 비컨 사용 못하면 NPC 대형 길드 단체가 NPC가 구성하고 있는 그러니까 세계관이 구성하고 있는 길드가 있잖아요. 해당 마이닝 길드라든지 이런 거. 거기서 주는 추가 보상 같은 걸 받을 수 없는 그런 것들 이용해 가지고 신뢰성을 높이기도 하는 거고, 그다음에 이제 응답자에 대한 그 서비스에 대한
Responders can earn that
등급이 올라가는
rating
거예요.
by successfully completing
여러 번 이제 상대방 유저를 가이드 시스템 도와주면 이제 점점점 자기 등급이 올라가는 거예요.
service beacons. You go from bronze up to gold, which indicates your level of experience and success, and only the top few will be able to earn platinum status.
그래서 일단 현재는 브론즈에 골드가 있고 그 위에 플래티늄은 이제 제한된 사람들만 플래티늄에 올라갈 수 있어요.
Which essentially puts you on a leaderboard and marks you as one of the best playing in your
리더보드도
region.
있어서 랭킹 시스템도 나오고.
So, when broadcasting, responders offer to help, and you'll see their rating. Then you'll get to pick who you want to help you out. Then let's say you're not very good, or you like to misbehave a lot.
사실 뭐 악용하려고 생각하고 들면요, 세상에 그 구멍 없는 시스템이 없어.
Failing a beacon will result in losing rating. And then repeat offenders will
모든 걸 부정적으로 생각하면 안 됩니다.
enter the red zone. The bald zone. And then only really desperate people are going to take you on. We're making the system much more robust to the point of automatically determining success or failure. So we're putting a lot of focus on making the system difficult to exploit as well.
그래서 얘네들 똑같은 걱정하고 있기 때문에 시스템을 악용하기 어렵게 만드는데 만초점을 만들고 있기 때문에 최대한 구멍을 줄이려고 노력은 해야죠. 근데 구멍이 아예 없을 수는 없다. 뭐 어떻게든 뭔가 우회해가지고 어뷰징을 하든 뭐 아니면 가라 미션 성공을 하든 뭐 이런 느낌으로 할 수는 있겠죠. 그렇죠.
In the many different ways that it can
유저 100명 동원해가지고 걔들이 미션 주는 거 그냥 막 1m 옮겨달라는 거 1m 옮겨주고 막 뭐 이런 거 있을 수도 있잖아.
be right now. So criminal types
그런 거
like you, Benoit,
그러니까 그런
will
거에
have to
대해서
get much
전반적인
more
어떻게 할
creative.
건지 나오겠죠.
So yeah, that's all great from the beacon broadcast.
이게 나 수리 미션 이게 너무 궁금해. 이 수리는 뭘까? 어디까지가 수리일까? 급유 우리가 지금 할 수 있는 거는 급유해 줄 수 있고 그리고 그 표면 끓긴 거 세비징 빔 이용해서 고쳐줄 수 있고 그리고 함선 부품 바꿔줄 수 있고 이제 이 정도거든. 근데 나중에 이 리페어는 어디까지 갈 것인가? 이건 너무 궁금해.
Caster's perspective, right? Pretty cool stuff. But they're not the only ones getting ganked. The beacon responders, they're also in a bad position. So what are we doing for the beacon responders? Well, we want to give you some idea of the risk you're putting yourself into by responding to the beacon. So we're adding trust rating. So if we look at this person who's looking for some help to repair here, well, you can see their last 5 recent beacons that they've broadcasted. They have 2 neutral ones. Something's gone wrong, but it wasn't necessarily bad or illegal.
이거는 반대로 말하자면 비컨을 띄운 사람이 오는 사람에 대한 걱정도 할 수 있지만 반대로 비컨을 띄운 걸 본 사람이 응답하려고 하니까 이 비컨을 띄운 사람에 대한 신뢰도에 대해서 좀 걱정이 될 수도 있잖아. 거기에 대한 시스템 이야기예요. 반대 역 이야기입니다. 이 5개의 불빛이 뭘 의미하냐면 비컨을 띄운 사람이 전 5개의 전전 거, 전전 거, 전전전 거, 전전전전 거, 전전전전 거 5개에 대해서 미션 성공이 어떻게 됐냐. 비컨에 대한 어떤 결과물이 나왔냐. 그걸 보여주는 겁니다. 이걸 대충 봐가지고 전 5개 동안 얘가 무슨 짓을 했는지 대충 느낌이 오는 거죠. 이제 얘는 보니까 전 거 문제 없이 끝난 것 같고 전전 것도 문제 없이 끝난 것 같고 전게 뭔가 문제가 있어서 나쁜 짓을 했다던가 뭐 아니면 상대방이 뭔가 문제가 있었고 나머지 불빛 안 들어오는 거는 뭐 중간에 미션을 포기했거나 뭐 지웠거나 뭐 이런 거겠죠. 이런 느낌이고 뭐 어느 정도 뭐 신뢰성은 아예 없는 건 아니네 하고 갈 수 있는 거고 얘는 좀 이제 애매한 거 밑에 있는 얘는 전 거는 잘 수행했는데 전전 거랑 전전전 게 완전 나쁜 짓을 해가지고 빨갛게 떠 있기 때문에 비컨을 띄워놨지만 못 믿는 거.
That's bad. They have been up to something, but they have also been successful with 2 beacons. So, well, at least you can assess the situation before going into it. It ensures your safety when doing a good deed.
그래서 여러분들이 이 가이드를 밟기 전에도 상대방 가이드 띄운 사람에 대한 정보를 좀 확인해가지고 갈 수 있다.
And yeah, I think that's it for beacons. So. Well,
we've got one more big thing I guess we need to talk about, right? Which we're really excited for.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. That is exciting. I like this one.
Did someone mess with the slides?
In Sweden, we call this a double barrel.
Well, it's not time for lunch just yet. So, who would like to talk about player organization?
플레이어 오거나이제이션, 그러니까 뭐 유저 단체, 뭐 우리나라 말로는 함대라고 표현하는데 저는 개인적으로 함대라는 표현 별로 안 좋아합니다. 그래서 무슨 우리가 진짜 함대만 끄는 게 아니잖아. 지상에서 그냥 춤추고 놀 수도 있는데. 길드라는 단어도 좋아해요.
That's all right.
It sounds like we've got a few people in orgs in the house today.
누가 함대라고 부르기 시작했는지 잘 모르겠어. 심지어 스타시티즌은 또 오거나이제이션이라고 부르지 함대라고 부르지 않거든. 플릿이라고 하지 않거든. 근데 왜 함대로 됐는지 우리나라에서는 잘 모르겠어요. 차라리 길드, 클랜, 콥 이런 게 훨씬 나은 것 같은데. 오거나이제이션, 단체라는 표현은 우리나라 좀 잘 안 쓰니까 단체는 좀 패스한다고 쳐. 근데 그 뭐 다른 표현이 많은데 왜 함대가 됐을까?
Well, you talked about this a while ago, right?
저는 개인적으로 별로 안 좋아하는 편입니다.
It's been 84 years. So, I was originally asked to outline the original ideas behind how organizations would work in the very early days of the project. A younger Ben, big ideas, same ideas, now action. You have no idea how happy I am that we're finally tackling this task and this design in the game to truly give you all the
F7에 나오기 전에 F7C만 있었을 때 그 마크 1 터렛 달아놓은 모양새네요. 동글동글한 거 보니까.
tools you need to make your empire in SC. There are more than 70,000 organizations registered on the RSI website.
그러니까요. 차라리 조직이라 부르는 것도 나쁘지 않네요. 조직이라든지 우리나라 말로 표현하면
69,999 of them of decent size, and then test.
그 실제 오거나이제이션은 7만 개 이상 등록되어 있는데 6만 9천 개 정도가 뭐 이렇게 실험용이나 아니면 그냥 임시로 한 명짜리 그런 단체라고 하네요.
Ridiculous. Too big. But all of those have custom identities, logos, charter. The amount of creative and high quality content you guys have always produced has always amazed us and inspired us. Those orgs range from a small group of friends with just the name to large companies spanning a large amount of players with the intent to share wealth, missions, and campaigns together. Now we want to make those orgs matter in the game. Should you choose to join or create an organization, we want this social aspect to be part of your progression. But don't let me spoil it. Let's get a real designer to cover this stuff. JJ, you are a self-proclaimed big MMO player yourself, so why don't you give us the details?
I didn't realize I went around self-proclaiming so much, but thank you. But as an MMO player, I understand that different terminology is used in a lot of different games, so I just wanted to very quickly go over how we're using it in Star Citizen. So orgs, as many of you know, the players coming together to achieve a goal, whatever you want your goals to be.
난 차라리 그냥 어차피 이거 미국 게임이니까 영국 게임이라 해야 되나? 얘네가 오그라고 부르잖아. 그냥 오거나이제이션에서 ORG만 떠서 오그라고 부르잖아. 우리는 좀 생소한 표현이긴 한데 그냥 우리도 오그라고 부르는 게 어떨까? 그게 제일 만만하지 않나. 서로 이해하기 편하고.
We give you the framework and you set it up and drive it forward. And we were going to shout a few of them out, but I was actually told we couldn't play favorites, so we actually made our own. So we've got
건설 비콘 자체는 뭐 여러분들이 돈 주고 살 수 있게 될 거예요. 결론은.
the Fellowship of JJ and
정확하게 말하면 지상 클레임 땅 소유권 비콘이.
Baltzfall Buccaneers.
Those
What?
guys.
You guys made your own orgs?
Yeah, we kind of left you out. Sorry about that, James.
We also have NPC factions, and they're already in the game. And
파이오니어는 땅 소유권 비콘이 기본적으로 한 개 이미 있어요. 파이오니어 자체. 사시면 게임 돈으로 현금을 주고 사시면 들어가 있어요. 패키지.
you can earn or lose reputation with them. Now contracts and doing nice things will earn you rep, and killing and stealing and all of that horrible stuff you love, Ben, that will lose you rep. Ling and Redwind and the ones that you can see on there are just.
근데 뭐 굳이 그 비콘이 필요한가 싶긴 해요. 시스템 건축 시스템이 바뀌어가지고.
Few examples.
땅 소유권을 주장해야 되는 시스템이면 모를까? 그게 아니면 뭐.
And there's going to be a lot more to come going forward.
땅 소유권을 주장해야 되는 행성이라든지 행성계 시스템이라든지 이런 것들에서는 뭐 좀 필요할지 모르겠는데 그 이상은 뭐.
Now there are also guilds like the Interstellar Transport Guild.
얘네도 팩션과 길들도 나왔는데.
And these are essentially
팩션은 뭐 이거는 세계관에 있는 세력들이니까.
collections of several factions. And
길드도
we're
마찬가지 세계관에 있는 거니까.
putting them in a position to be more prevalent.
What? You're saying there's something bigger than factions?
Oh yeah. So they're going to be something you interact with a lot, and they essentially handle contracts for the factions. But you will earn rep with both still.
옥은 그냥 유저가 만드는 거고요. 일종의 단체고요. 같은 그 취미생활하는 동아리 같은 거고. 뭐 동아리 치고는 막 10,000명짜리 옥도 있고 하지만 막 아무튼. 근데 팩션은 이제 기업 세계관의 구성이 될 수 있는 기업, 특정 파트 뭐 마이닝이나 마이닝 이런 거에 대한 이제 주류 세력들 그게 팩션이고. 길드는 좀 더 크게 범우주적.
Still, but as the bigger entity, the guild will be much more important. And you'll find out a lot more about guilds tomorrow at the Stars My Destination presentation at the end of tomorrow.
Again, a tease.
But now we can dive into some of our new org systems.
여러분들 플레이어 5구에 들어가기도 하겠지만 물류 운송을 많이 팩션은 지금 그거예요. 명성치 시스템 보면 나오는 거 있잖아. 코발렉스 혹은 뭐 인터스텔라 뭐 마이닝 뭐 어쩌고 이게 다 팩션이에요. 그러니까 그것들이 다 팩션이고 이제 근데 길드는 약간 뭐 이런 거지. 인류 연합 방어군 CDF 같은 거. 네, 그런 거는 이제 거의 길드도 아닌 거죠. 민간 방어군, 방위군 뭐 이런 거.
Yes. Let's start with the basics. I want to find or I want
그것도 팩션이잖아. 생각.
recruit for an org.
Yeah. So welcome to the new app for everything.
근데 이제 우리 오고를 위한 이제 창도 따로 만들어지는 거지.
Orgs.
Tease with the mask.
So orgs.
난 제발 부탁이니까 저거를 공식 한글화 하는 분들이 함대라고 번역 안 해줬으면 좋겠어. 차라리 조직이라고 번역하면 이해할 수 있는데 함대라 번역하면 나 클레임 걸 거야.
Can be big and complex, and as we said, some of them have thousands of members. So when we designed the app, well, we made sure that we took this into account, but it's also something that we can.
제가 되게 싫어하는 편이라 가지고 뭐 제 개인적인 취향입니다, 여러분. 제가 옳다 나쁘다 이게 아니에요. 그냥 좀 함대가 맞는 걸 수도 있어요. 근데 저런 것들 앞으로 이렇게 한마디로 길드 채팅창이죠. 길드 채팅창, 길드 관리창 나오죠.
Expand on moving forward.
단체라는 표현은 우리 잘 쓰잖아. 근데 조직은
Now, I'd like to point out that the Fellowship of JJ, like every designer-based org, is really focused on things like progression gameplay and mission and crafting and leveling up. But my Bolt's Fault Buccaneers, no, they're the real deal. Now, we don't do any of that stuff. Now, we're in it for profit, interdiction lines, shipboarding action. We get all that sweet cargo for free.
2부에서는 코비라 그런다며. 뭐 그런 느낌으로 우리도 옥 상이야.
For free? That sounds pretty illegal, Ben.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What's in those crates?
Slam.
길드도 할 수 있고.
Anyway, it
근데
sounds like you
스타시티즌에서
guys.
길드는 다른 의미로 쓰인다니까. 길드를 쓰긴 좀 그렇고. 그다음 팩션을 쓰기도 그렇고. 팩션은 또 팩션이 따로 있으니까. 그러니까 길드 팩션이라는 거는 스타시티즌 세계관적으로 이미 그거 관련된 표현이 있는 거니까 뭐 이렇게 따로 있는 거고. 가문. 오르가나이제이션에 가문이라는 의미 좀 있긴 해. 사실 아예 없는 건 아니야. 근데 좀 너무 이상하지 않아요? 뭔가
Guys might be interested in joining some big orgs. Well, I prefer something smaller. So I think it's fair to say that we like playing in different ways and we'll want to join different orgs. The recruitment tab is.
내가 지금 제일 주의 깊게 보는 게 뭐냐면 이게 보시면 이게 특정 그 팩션들 옥들 이게 자기 아이디 앞에 뜨는 이게 단축 글들이 이제 생기거든. 이건 3글자도 있고 4글자도 있잖아요. 이게 어느 글자까지 되는 거냐? 그래서 내가 카노조를 만들었더니 내가 제가 오피셜 이름을 카노조로 했다 해봐. CNJ가 될 거 아니에요. 그러면 CNJ가 여러 개 있을 때는 그럼 나는 뭐가 되냐? CNJ2가 되나? 뭐 아무튼 이런 것도 있을 거고.
the place to find them. So we're giving you the tools to promote your org to potential members in order to
그래서 옥이 맞는 것 같아요. 아 여러분 아닙니까?
give a best first impression to them.
아, 조직이 맞는 것 같아요.
Just noticed that, Ben. You might want to have a word with Rich. It looks like
What?
he doesn't want you.
자, 한번 잠깐 우리 사전을 보자. 이게 번역기도 말고 영문학적 사전 한번 봅시다. 자, 살짝 이거에서 영어 사전, 네이버, 뭐 네이버 보자. organization. 일단은 조직, 단체, 기구라고 이제 명사, 준비, 조직 구성, 구조, 조직위 이런 것도 이제 organization이고 이제 뭐 이렇게 나오겠죠? 조직, 단체, 기구, 준비, 조직, 기관이라는 의미도 당연히 있고, 기구 뭐 이거 사실 내가 보기엔 조직이 제일 그냥 비슷한 말인 것 같긴 해요.
No way.
우리 조직이 옆 조직을 쳐들어갔다. 옆 조직에 그 아주 달콤한 향기가 흘렸기 때문에.
I'll have a speak with him.
Anyway, yes. So we're adding filters for when you're basically trying to find a home. And we want to cater to all types of players because we're a massive game, right? And orgs are combining tons of different gameplay in tons of different ways. So you can search by name if there's an infamous org you've encountered out there in the verse.
자, 여기에 이제 카노조가 생기면 오그 포커스가 뭐가 될까요? 일단 소셜 당연히 들어갔고요. 왜냐면 나의 방송을 지원해주는 느낌도 있는 거니까 소셜 당연히 들어갔고요. 익스플로레이션 당연히 들어가고요. 너의 한편은 탐사해야 되니까 당연히 탐사해야 되니까 들어가고. 플레이버 없어요. 아 그런 거 없어. 아 플레이버 없어. RP 있네. 롤플레잉 있네. 롤플레잉 들어가야죠. 그게 노예 NOYE 되네. NOY 롤플레잉 들어가. 캐주얼 일반 일상적인 뭐 대화하고 소셜과 캐주얼은 뭐가 차이가 있을까? 일상적으로 플레이한다 아니면 평범하게 플레이한다 이런 의미인 것 같습니다. 캐주얼 밑에는 뭘까? 밑에도 캐주얼이라 적혀 있는 것 같은데? 그것도 레이싱이라 적혀 있는 것 같은데? 잘 모르겠습니다.
Or online, you can search by size. So if you're after a big and active org like me, or a small and more close-knit org like Gabriel.
캐주얼에 평범하게 미션하고 평범하게 게임하겠다 이런 느낌인 것 같고, 소셜은 뭐 약간 뭐 적극적으로 뭐 만나고 뭐 이벤트 즐기고 뭐 이런 걸 수도 있겠다.
Then you can also search by the gameplay focuses you enjoy. So maybe you love trading in PvP, or maybe you like events like the Daymar Rally. Safe, yeah. So I guess you'd end up searching for say.
그래서 카복의 길드를 굳이 따지자면, 길드가 아니라 카복의 옥을 그냥 따지자면 소셜, 익스플로레이션, RP, 롤플레이 3개가 될 것 같습니다. 캐주얼도 굳이 따지자면 하나 들어갈게요.
Racing, maybe.
What if I love committing crime and roleplay, asking for a friend?
What's that got to do with the presentation? Anyway, you can search for whatever you like, and if it's not there, why not just create it yourself?
So, we allowed you to join multiple orgs back in 2014. I can still do that, right?
Oh yeah. So we're keeping it supported.
여러 가지 그리고 여러 단체는 여러 개 들어갈 수 있기 때문에요. 보다시피 여러 개 뜨죠. 조직을 여러 개 들어갈 수 있기 때문에요. 이렇게 여러 개 뜨니까
Actually doing the star system thing, and we're going one bigger.
One bigger.
So we're giving you an additional one to join when we actually bring it into the game too. And we wanted to keep it because we've
396명은 근데 해외 거 치고는 중 규모 정도밖에 안 돼. 자, 엄청 큰 데는 1000명 넘는 데가 너무 수두룩해가지고.
all play games where it's far too limited. Like one org per character just isn't enough for a game this size.
Yeah. And here you get an idea of what the full screen will look like. It's going to be your one-stop shop for joining or finding players for your org. So let's have a look at the core functions and features to look forward to in the rest of the app. This is the summary tab. On here, you can select one of your orgs that you're in on the left-hand side, and you'll see, well, a summary, a lot of at-a-glance information. So we'll introduce some of these one at a time. So first off, announcements and org information. Simple stuff.
심지어 서버 메싱 완성되고 다이내믹 서버 메싱 나와도 가들어서 1000명은 될지 모르겠는데 막 10,000명이 있는 막 조직이라든지 옥이라든지 이런 것들은 서로 만나기 힘들 겁니다. 다 같이 모이는 거는 시간이 다 맞아서 10,000명의 시간이 다 맞아서 우연치 않게 다 들어올 수 있다 하더라도 그걸 견딜 수 있는 서버가 없을 거예요. 서버 각각 샤드가 나눠져 있어서 같은 위치에 있는데 보이는 사람은 뭐 1000명, 2000명밖에 안 되겠지. 그래서 그러니까 같은 위치, 같은 공간에 있지만 샤드가 달라지기 때문에요. 그렇게 인원이 많아지면 그래가지고 보이는 한 1000명, 2000명 사람들밖에 안 보이겠죠. 그래서 10,000명이 한꺼번에 한 장소에 똑같은 샤드에 모이기는 쉽지 않다. 될지 안 될지도 모르겠고.
Also, we're adding an events log.
자, 말도 안 되게 다이내믹 포맷이 잘게 서버를 쪼개가지고 같은 지역에 막 거의 뭐 100m 단위로 서버를 쪼개놨다, 10m 단위로 서버를 쪼개놨다, 뭐 이러면 모르겠는데 그게 아닌 이상은 쉽지 않겠죠.
So in here you'll get a summary of important events within the org and changes to org status or settings. In short, these things, well, it's a big verse and it's easy to miss cool things that happen in your org. And these features will help you stay on top of the day-to-day life of being an org member.
멤버들이 뭐 하는 거
기록들. So
이벤트 캘린더.
By default.
제일 큰 이유는 그것 때문이에요. 첫 번째 제일 큰 게 현재 4.0 대비한다고 우리가 우리 눈에는 보이지 않지만 뒷단에서 코드들을 다 서버 메싱 맞춰서 네트워크 코드를 다 바꾸고 있습니다. 예, 그래가지고 그 코드를 바꾸는데 이제 에러가 엄청 터지는 거지. 네, 그거를 다 지금 잡을 수가 없으니까 계속 에러 계속 잡고 있는 거예요. 그게 이제 제일 첫 번째 문제고, 두 번째 문제는 또 이거는 뭐 MFD 같은 거 이번에 바꿨잖아요. 다 바꿨잖아요. 다 바꾸는 와중에 이 MFD는 사실 현재 게임 플레이에 적합한 게 아니고요. 앞으로 나올 엔지니어링 게임이랑 라이프 서포트 시스템 이런 거 관리하는 거까지 포함되어 있는 개념이거든요. 근데 그거 없이 냈으니 또 이게 뭔가 문제가 터지는 것 같아. 그래가지고 이게 여러 가지가 이유가 있어가지고.
So by default, it's going to be populated.
그러니까 한번 서버 메싱 때문에 준비한다고 한번 개파이 났는데 거기다 또 위에 또 다른 게임 거 또 바꾸니까 또 개파이 난 거야. 연달아 개파이 난 거지.
With our in-game events.
그나마 PTO는 어저께 플레이했는데 괜찮았어요.
So you never miss a thing, but more importantly,
본소리가 들어오면 어떻게 될지 모르겠지만.
Obviously, be able to add your own as well. So you'll never miss another meetup to get together for group content. It's tough to get everyone on at the same time, right? So use this for your convoy Tuesdays, casual Fridays, holding hands in Horizon Saturdays, whatever you want.
Getting crushed by the Buccaneers on Monday.
That's Gabriel's favorite.
It is my favorite.
Remember that it is our intent that all the features we're looking at here are available on Spectrum as well, allowing you to access this info even if you're not in
site. So if you're in multiple orgs, you choose which one you want to represent the system on the website.
그리고 이제 오그의 기본 이게 약어들이 뜨는데 이제 말하는 게 뭐냐면 여러분이 여러 가지 오그에 들어갈 수 있잖아요. 그럼 어떻게 뜨냐? 여러 개 뜨는 게 아니고요. 여러분이 정하는 거예요, 그냥. 제 대표 머리 위에 표시할 건 뭘로 표시하냐? 그냥 정해가지고 표시하면 돼요.
So if you're in multiple orgs, you choose which one you want to represent, but you can only represent one at a time. Now there are ongoing benefits for being in orgs, which we'll get to in a minute, but choosing who you represent asks which one you want to benefit from at any given time. But why? Well, we wanted to support players who like to play with different groups of friends, but we didn't want players who are just in one to be at a major disadvantage to those that are in the full six. Because really, joining multiple orgs should be your choice and not feel like it's a necessity.
And there's no need for you to switch which org you're representing to see things like this Mobi screen or org chat, but we want to put limitations on how often you can switch to avoid exploiting the systems. And we don't want.
뭐라고 해야 될까요? 이 말하는 건 그거였어요. 여러분들이 꼭 강제로 다 많은 오그를 가입해야 되는 상황을 만들고 싶지 않다 이렇게 있거든요.
Punish anyone who's playing by the rules.
번역이 좀 잘못된 걸 수도 있어요.
And a big part of representing is visualizing it in world. We want you to be able to fly your banner for your org. So we're adding another MMO staple to the game.
그리고 이제 나중에 오그 이거 배지 배너 같은 거를 여러분 함선이나 우주복에 붙일 수 있도록 게임을 만들 예정이죠. 저 디자인 잘해야 돼요. 그래서 저거 디자이너 필요해 저거.
Game. Tags.
태그는 이렇게 뜨고 이렇게. 태그가 중복했을 때 어떻게 되는지 여기 알려.
So the org leader will be able to set a tag for the org, and this gets appended to the name while you're representing. So you can easily see who is in which org at a glance. So we'll have it in chats, in world, and if you're not interested in this stuff, well, you have the option to turn it off as well.
How novel! We'll be able to identify people around us.
아예 꺼버릴 수도 있다.
JJ, I'm curious. You mentioned guilds before, and I'm guessing they fit into this somehow.
Yes, so you may have spotted a few references on the UI to alignment earlier, but what is it? So, it's your opportunity to form a relationship between.
그리고 이제 다 자신의 오그가 이게 세계관에 있는 길드라든지 팩션과의 관계도 만들 수 있네요. 맞출 수 있네요. 그 걔네 미션들 같은 거 해가지고.
Org, an in-game guild. Now, just as you in personal rep with the guilds, you can with your org now as well.
해당 오그가 어떤 길드와 게임 내 세력과 관계가 좋냐 안 좋냐가 게임 플레이에 영향을 엄청나게 미칠 거 아니에요?
Your org leaders pick which one you want to align with, and while representing, org members doing specific action, like contracts with them, will increase the org's alignment with the guild.
그래서 외계인과 전쟁을 주로 하겠다는 오그가 있어. 걔들은 이제 그 UE와 이제 친해져야 돼요. UE와 친해져가지고 UE에 관련 전쟁 미션을 받아서 이제 오그 지원 인원들과 함께 뭐 자벨린이라든지 이드리스 같은 거 모아가지고 뭐 UE가 요청한 시스템에 가서 뭐 반둘과 전쟁을 한다던가 PVE 전쟁을 한다던가 뭐 이런 식으로 게임 플레이가 되겠죠. 이게 아마 PVE 엔드 컨텐츠라고 저는 생각합니다. 뭐 그런 느낌으로 진행되지 않을까.
But which guild should you pick? So all of our guilds are going to have a specific theme and associated gameplay.
친날대 조직 나올 수 있겠죠. 친 제노스렛 조직도 나올 수 있고.
And you can basically pick the one that matches your theme or benefits your org the most. So a combat-focused org, like the Fellowship, might want to align with themselves with the Mercenary Guild. Or one that enjoys making cash through trading and hauling, they'd probably want to align with the Interstellar Transport Guild.
Yeah, so how do these benefits work? Well, as your alignment with a guild, it raises,
이때 눈치챘어야 됐어. 얘들이 갑자기 단체 이야기를 이렇게 자세하게 얘기하는 거 보니 다음 날에 뭔가 조직 관련된 옷 관련된 뭔가 엄청나게 나오겠구나 이거 생각했어야 되는데 그 당시에 피곤해가지고 이러고 있었어.
You both unlock new benefits from that guild as well as improve your previously unlocked benefits. So, for example, if I align my org with the Academy of Science Guild, we might get research speed improvements.
아카데미 뭐 사이언스 길드랑 좀 연관이 있으면 뭐 리서치하는 거에 대한 뭐 속도 향상이라든지 이런 효과가 있다.
As my org performs contracts for this guild, alignment raises, and that speed benefit gets better. And needless to
슬레이브 길드 같은 거 있나?
say, other guilds will have other types of benefits. Finally, on guild alignment, you are not locked in forever. You can switch at any time. However, that will put your alignment back at zero.
이게 관련 있는 오그가 몰라 몇 개까지 허용할지 모르겠는데 아무튼 주요 컨택 오그 길드를 하나 그 정하고 나서 바꾸면 그 전에 했던 길드의 그 뭐야 진행도는 다 리셋이 된다고 하네요 지금. 한 번에 하나인가 이런 느낌일 수도 있을 것 같아요. 내가 보니까.
So it's a big choice.
So every member gets full benefits.
그래서 오그를 여러 개 가입해야 될 필요도 있겠구나. 왜냐면 각 오그가 관련 있는 그 세력 길드와 다를 거 아니에요. 여러 개 가입하면 여러 개 효과가 있잖아. 그래서
Well, not necessarily. We're also introducing loyalty. So it's similar to the org's alignment with a guild, but this represents your relationship to the org you're in. Anything you do that benefits the org while
그리고 요거는 이제 지금 방금까지는 오그와 길드에 대한 관계를 얘기했다면 이거는 여러분들과 여러분 툭한 오그에 대한 그 충성도 시스템입니다. 기여도가 높을수록 오그에서 좀 더 많은
You are representing it will gain you loyalty with them. So for example, you could be doing missions for the org-aligned guild, or you could be
가령 따라서 여러분들이 그 해당 오그가 연간은 짓고 있는 길드에서 주는 미션들을 위주로 했어요. 그 길드 오그를 위해서. 그러면 여러분들 당연히 그 길드에서 길드와 오그의 관계도 좋아지지만 오그와 여러분들의 관계도 좋아집니다. 그러면서 여러분들 더 많은 보상을 받을 수 있는 거지.
investing money and materials into org storage.
Org storage?
Another T.
그리고 이제 그 오그를 위한 전용 저장소 같은 것도 생길 거고. 아마 4.0 뒤에 공개는.
Ultimately, we wanted to encourage long-term membership because we don't think you should just be able to join a well-established org and then just get everything instantly for no effort. So to put it simply, having low loyalty limits what you gain from the org's alignment benefits, and having high loyalty gives you full access. We also wanted org leadership to be able to view members' current loyalty and use it as a tool to reward appropriately with things like ranks and permissions. And then loyalty resets to 0 when you leave an org, so there's some incentive for sticking around.
Wait, does that mean I lose my loyalty if I change my representation away?
No, so not representing puts your contributions or ongoing benefits on hold.
사실 정식 서비스 이야기가 1.0 이야기긴 해요. 4.0쯤에 그 4.0 중간에 뭐 테스트용으로 미리 들어올 수 가능성이 있긴 하지만 실질적으로는 1.0 이야기긴 하죠.
So when you start representing again, you essentially just pick up where you left.
왜냐면 1.0 발표할 때도 그 얘기를 했거든요. 세계에는 여러 길드와 팩션이 있을 거고 여러분들의 게임 플레이는 그런 팩션과 길드들의 미션을 반복 수행하면서 시작이 될 것이다. 이런 식으로 설명하기 때문에 그게 1.0에부터 시작될 거다. 이게 여러분들이 생각하는 게임적 반복 플레이 루트다. 이렇게 설명했기 때문에 그 관련된 이야기이기 때문에 실질적으로 1.0.
But what if I leave the org?
It's not very loyal, so it resets.
Right. Well, so in my org, my buccaneers, they're mostly scoundrels.
근데 1.0부터 무한 결정할 거면요, 그 본인이 뭔가 계속 소유하고 갖고 싶을 때는 무한 결정이지. 파이로나 닉스 같은 데서 다 경쟁하는 거지. 그냥 유유자적 그냥 뭐 테라, 스탠턴, 캐스트라 돌아다니면서 놀 수 있습니다.
So they tend to join and leave. And,
저도 그걸
it's not very loyal in general. Larger orgs.
저도 뭐 PVP에 머리 아프고 싶지 않아요.
They tend to be a pain to manage.
우주 스테이션 같은 건 하나 지어보고 싶긴 한데 혹시 짓더라도 꼭 모르겠어. 꼭 안전한 시스템을 지을 수 있으면 그때 가서 한번 지어보고.
The flow of joiners and leavers. Do we have any tools to help managers like me?
Well, let's have a look at the members tab. So this is less complex than the previous tabs, but it's equally important. This is where you
당장 1.0 나왔을 때 뭐 우주 스테이션 짓는다 이거는 솔직히 무리수고 게임이 뭐 1.10에서 정발이 돼가지고 뭐 1.1, 2.2 뭐 계속 발전하겠죠. 뭐 계속 행성기가 늘어날 거 아니에요. 그러면 더더욱 많은 행성기가 유저도 많아지고 행성도 많아지면 더더욱 뭐 여러 가지 기회들이 생길 거니까. 그때 가서 뭐 좀 더 복잡한 게임 플레이 생각해보고 초반에 정발되었을 때는 저도 좀 유유자적하게 그냥 반복적 플레이하면서 PVE 위주로 이렇게.
The community of your org and your place in it. So in here, you'll be able to manage members. You can leave notes and see the ranks of members. And as we did with the friends list and the party list, we're adding rich presence in here as well. This is the rank panel. It gives you a clear indication where you sit within the community. And you'll see permissions on here, but that's something that we'll delve more into at a later date. For now, I'll just say that the leader might be able to determine permissions for each rank, and well, it could be things like inviting new members or accessing org storage.
Stop teasing us with org storage. God.
Come on.
So all right. So orgs form and friendship and animosities build up. Maybe my buccaneers and the fellowship of JJ don't really see eye to eye most of the time. Would be great for this to translate in game, wouldn't it?
It would, wouldn't it?
동맹과 적대가 아닌데.
So yeah, it's a good job we got it covered, which is with our new alliances and rivalry system. So you're going to have the ability to create alliances and go to war. And there are many reasons to make friends. You might want to have trading partners, or you might want to group up for protection if you're playing somewhere like Pyro. And at the same time, there are probably going to be many reasons why you won't get along. Maybe an org keeps attacking or stealing from you. Alliances forming are an agreement between two org leaders, and it has to be mutual. You can't force someone to be friends.
Unlike real life.
Requests are sent from the screen if you have permission, and you could respond here as well.
뭐 옛날부터 이제 뭐 다른 게임이
And as a
많았던
bonus,
시스템이니까
allied orgs
동맹
can have
맺고
additional
적대
lines
관계
of
설정하고.
communication, like alliance chat, or being able to share alliance events on the calendar, just to name a few.
So, rivalry, that isn't a mutual agreement. If someone decides you're their rival, well, tough luck. However, you could reach a mutual agreement to make a truce, putting you back at neutral. And there's no real benefit to having rivals, so we want to make them easy to identify. That's why alliances and rivalries tie directly into hostility indicators. So just like now, you'll be able to see neutral contacts in white and party members show up in blue.
중립적인 세력은 흰색, 뭐 NPC고 유저고 상관없이 파티원은 파란색.
Whereas your org wingman will
당신의 여러분들의 오그 멤버는 이제 초록색.
come in a dark green, and your ally
짙은 초록색.
orgs in a paler green.
좀 근데 그러니까 동맹 오그는 연한 초록색.
Your rivals will show up in red.
당시에
People in your kill list.
본인의 킬리스트나 아니면 이제 적대 오그에 있는 사람들은 빨간색.
The kill list, people
죽여도 된다는 의미보다는 그 팩터 본인이 있는 그 시스템이 안전 합법 시스템이면 건드리면 안 되죠. 서로 범죄 먹는 거예요. 선공 범죄죠. 주의만 해야죠. 일단 저 새끼가 날 때릴 것인가 말 것인가. 서로 그냥 파이로면 쏘고 보는 거지. 파이로나 닉스면 쏘는 거지.
on your kill list that we mentioned before will also show up in red or orange if you're not, well, they're not legal to attack. That's the
이거는 이제 오렌지는 이제 합법적으로는 범죄적으로 이제 공격하면 안 된다. 그러니까 빨간색은 죽여도 되는 것 같아. 내가 보니까 빨간색은 무법 카테고리에 있는 적대 세력을 발견한 거고, 이제 주홍색 카테고리는 보면 나오죠. 공격하는 것이 합법적이지 않습니다. 적대이긴 한데. 주홍색은 쏘면 안 돼.
go straight to jail card if you kill them here.
빨간색은 죽여도 된다. 그 맞네요. 빨간색은
So
쏠 수 있습니다.
we'll be adding accessibility options for this stuff as well.
주홍색은 범죄 스택 쌓입니다.
Make sure that everybody can benefit from these updates.
빨갱이 이콘 쏜다.
So, that's everything for orgs today, but it's just the tip of the social iceberg. And we didn't have time to show you everything, but there's lots more to show in the future. And we're
진짜 사람 많다. 이게 보면요, 여기 이렇게 한 층 있고요. 중간에 길 같은 거 하나 있고, 이렇게 한 층 더 있고요. 여기 양쪽에 네 개가 있어요. 하나, 둘, 셋, 넷 이렇게. 그리고 또 뒤에 한 줄 더 있고요. 또 이렇게 하나, 둘, 셋, 넷 더 있습니다. 안 보여. 빛 때문에 안 보여서 그렇지. 겁나 많은 거예요, 진짜.
didn't have time to show you everything, but there's lots.
잠깐만, 나 보였던 것 같은데.
The tip of the social iceberg. And we didn't have time to show you everything, but there's just the tip of the social iceberg.
찾아보고 싶다. 이러면 좀 주민이 안 되는구나. 있을 것 같은데, 보일 것 같은데, 잘 모르겠네.
And we didn't have time to show you everything, but there's lots more to show in the future. And we're super excited because we finally get to deliver it.
Yeah.
내가 요 발표할 때 속이 안 좋아서 화장실을 왔다 갔다 많이 했어. 맞다. 기억이 났어. 내가 단체 파티 발표할 때 속이 안 좋았어. 계속 화장실 갔다 왔다 했어.
Learned. We're upgrading Star Citizen social tools to MMO size. With a new social app in the MobiGlass, proper tools to manage parties with rich presence ready.
그냥 뭐 이때가 점심시간 전이어가지고요. 뭘 먹진 않았고 아침에 맥도날드 먹게 단데 그 전날 제가 막 23시간 동안 이동을 했잖아요. 근데 그런 피곤도가 그동안 소화 안 된 게 그런 게 아마 이때 좀 물갈이 같은 게 했는지 않았나 싶었어요. 그 뒤로부터 괜찮았거든요. 이때 딱 타이밍이 좀.
Check and ship information. Richer chat with the niceties normally present in every game. A new party finder, a system that allows you to find players to play with. Revamp beacons and guide system powered by rating and proficiency. On orgs, we're bringing orgs in the game. We're obviously with a new orgs app, but also alignment. So you align your org with a guild and get benefits for your members. Representations, which identifies you in the verse and gives you.
여러분한테 말씀드릴게요. 4.0 들어오면요. 그때 단체를 그 조직을 어떻게 만들지 좀 설계를 해보겠습니다. 제가 이미 가입돼 있는 그 오거나이제이션도 있기 때문에 저 주모 함대에 가입돼 있기 때문에 그것도 생각해 봐야 되고 관계도 생각해 봐야 되고 하기 때문에 일단은
benefits and loyalty to your orgs and alliances and rivalry to identify.
여러분들한테 좀 그러니까 쉽게 가입하고 쉽게 나갈 수 있는 그런 좀 주모 함대를 굳이 나갈 필요가 없으면 안 나가고요. 왜냐면 그러니까 여러 가지 오구를 가입할 수 있는 건 시스템적으로 허락해 놓은 부분이니까 주모 함대 내부적으로 다른 오구를 가입하지 말라는 조항이 있거든요. 그러니까 함대 룰적으로. 그래서 그거를 제가 그 김치미님이랑 확인을 해가지고 내가 이렇게 만들려고 하는데 좀 라이트한 내 스트리밍을 위한 오구를 만들려고 하는데 그게 주모 함대 정책과 반대가 되냐 안 되냐를 좀 물어봐서 안 될 것 같다라고 답변이 오시면 어쩔 수 없이 주모 함대 나가고 괜찮다 그러면 뭐 같이 들어가 있고 뭐 이런 식으로 진행해야지.
By friend from foe. And now we're going to leave you with a short video to end on because we couldn't show everything we're working on. But what would it look like in the unlikely event where our two powerhouse orgs came together as one?
And my org, right?
Yeah, it's a little teaser for tomorrow's crafting your home presentation and what you can build together as an org, and teasing something else coming in the future. Have a great CitizenCon, guys.
그거를 이야기를 해야죠.
See you there.
See ya.
내가 맘대로 된다 안 된다 생각하면 안 돼. 저는 제가 만들 거는 다 허용할 겁니다, 여러분. 여러분들이 나한테나 우리 오그한테 트롤을 하지 않는 이상 여러분들이 중복 가입을 하든 말든 같이 게임을 즐기고자 만드는 한국인들끼리 게임을 즐기고자 만드는 오고기 때문에 뉴비 가이드 입장표 가이드. 로고가 중요해지는 그런 느낌이었습니다. 자, 오늘 여기까지 봤고요. 잠깐만 PTO 한 번만 들어가 볼까? 잠깐만 12시 반이 돼 벌써. PTO만 한 번만 들어가 볼게요. PU는 안 좋은 거 나도 아니까 PTO만 좀 문제 없으면 다음 주쯤에 이제 본서 패치 한번 이루어질 거니까 PTO 한번 살짝 들어가 보고 그래서 그것만 보고 문제 없으면 기분 좋게 잡시다. 내일 월요일이잖아요. 근데 카보가 왜 이렇게 방송 오래 하시죠? 라고 물어보신다면 전 내일 휴일이기 때문입니다. 저도 내일 놉니다. 쉽니다. 쉬는 날입니다. 배신자. 이번 달 며칠이요? 이번 달이요? 이번 달에 4.0 들어올 가능성은 매우 낮은 편이고요. 제가 보기에는 최소 엑스포 끝나고 나서, 그러니까 12월 초? 아무리 빨라도. 제가 예상하는 건 12월 말입니다. 폴라는 엑스포 4.0이랑 전혀 상관없어요. 그냥 엑스포 이벤트 때 구현되기로 하는 함선 중에 하나이기 때문에 4.0이랑 전혀 4.0 나오든 말든 전혀 상관없어요. 올해대로 들어오려고 지금 로드맵을 엄청 쳐냈잖아요. 그래서 그랬는데도 뭐 될지 안 될지는 두고 봐야 하는 거니까. 아무튼 늘려고 엄청나게 노력을 하고 있다. CIG가. 내고 얘네들끼리 후가 갔다가 1분기 때 이제 서서히 이제 엔지니어링이 빠진 것도 이제 늘려고 이제 하겠지 이제. 점프게이트에서 폴라 딱 뽑아. 물 마셔. 물 어디 갔어? 뭐 들지 않니? 물을 안 든다. 불평구 귀찮아라고 만드는 게 엔지니어링이에요. 그래서 그러니까 결국 함선 큰 거 혼자 운영 못하게 만들겠다는 원리 중에 하나이기 때문에. 재미있다? 글쎄, 엔지니어링 재미있기 쉽지 않을 것 같은데. 필요하다? 엄청나게 필요하다. 손에 들질 않아.
Hi, welcome to the store.
그래서 AI 블레이드가 나왔을 때 많은 분들은 그거 가지고 터렛 운용하겠다고 생각하는데 나 맘대로 이제 해머헤드 혼자 타가지고 터렛을 세대 AI 블레이드 연결해가지고 AI 블레이드는 컴퓨터 수 제약에 따르니까 6개 다는 안 될 거고 한 2-3개 해가지고 나 혼자 운영해야지 이렇게 생각하는데 내가 보기에는 AI 블레이드의 큰 장점은요 나중에 엔지니어링 플레이어에서 조금 자유롭지 않을까. 저는 그게 더 관심이 많습니다. AI 블레이드는 여러 가지 종류가 있거든요. 엔지니어링 해표하는 AI 블레이드도 있고, 파워 매니지먼트 해주는 AI 블레이드도 있고, 막 이런 것도 있기 때문에 그런 것들에 대해서 좀 더 인간을 자유롭게 만들지 않을까. 여기도 살짝 물이 안 들리지. 애초에 유비가 캐럭을 혼자 운영하려고 드는 게 그 문제지 않을까? 이러면 들리네. 왜 마시다 말. 동양인이 좀 디자인이 제한적이어가지고 유튜브에 아무도 채팅 안 치고 있어요. 안 보이는 게 아니라 아무도 안 채팅 안 치고 있어요. 저도 근데 뭐 현재는 뭐 이렇게 해놓긴 했는데 나중에 어떻게 할지 모르겠네요. 나만의 캐릭터 좀 시간을 들여서 컴 한번 해봐야죠.
Welcome to the ASOP Vehicle Retrieval System.
일단은 마음껏 뽑아서 나가서 상태 보려고 산 거니까 평소에 안 타는 거 타고 나갑시다. 평소에 안 타는 게 뭐가 있을까? 평소에 안 타는 게 너무 많아서 평소에 뭘 안 타는지 모르겠네. 이거에 안 탔는다. 릴라이언트 코레.
Vehicle selected. Stand by.
나방.
Your vehicle has been delivered to them.
글레이브는 은근 타요. 왜냐면 전투기 성능이 좋거든요. 이게 오프사이즈 구장을 달고 있으니까 은근 탑니다. 오히려 블레이드를 좀 더 안 타는 편이긴 해. 안전한 편들은 그 스쿼드런 40이 나오면 스쿼드런 42 버전으로 다 리뉴얼될 예정이거든요. 이드리스처럼. 그렇기 때문에 그때 가서 리뉴얼이 아니지. 그때 가서 영상 찍을 예정이에요. 지금 영상 찍지도 않았어요. 굳이 찍을 이 생각이 안 들어서 찍지도 않았어. 뷰 나쁘지 않은데? 하여튼 레드가 부셔져 있어. 랜딩은 업됐지만 변신은 안 돼 있다. 변신. 우리 릴라이언트 CIG한테 버림받은 건지 뭐 어떻게 된 건지 모르겠는. 미스크사가 버림받은 건 아닌데 스타렉스 나온 거 보면 네. 릴라이언트는 잘 모르겠네. 처음 나왔을 때는 만도 함선이라 해가지고 만달로리안 타고 다니는 함선으로 되게 유명했거든. 훨씬다. 스캔이 안 떠져. 얘는 커비어랑 좀 다르잖아요. 얘는 수직형 비행이거든요. 수직 비행이어가지고 수직 비행 그 스타시티즌에 면한되는 수직형 모양의 비행기거든요. 우주선이요. 미스크가 좀 도전적인 실험을 많이 한 것 같아. 드레이크도 생각하면 많이 리디머다. 스캔이 안 될까? 버튼은 내가 배정을 안 해놨네. 뭔가 문제가 좀 있네요. 잠깐만, 이제 마우스로 좀 롤링이 안 돼. 뭐야? 호랑이가 롤링 아니었어? 뭐지? 아, 맞는다. 여기 이상수. 버려지는 오로라. 일부러 키만 플레이 해보고 있거든요. C1? 문제 없는 거지 지금. 원래 이것만 플레이해서 내가 알 수가 있어요. 서버 FPS 낮네. 네, 위에 새로 바뀐 밀스크 게시판은 MFG는 되게 잘 어울린다. 되게 생각보다 되게 뭔가 아다리 안 맞는데 잘 어울려. 아다리 안 맞거든요 지금. 근데 좀 잘 어울리는 편이에요. 홀로그램처럼 잘 떠가지고. 암호 지상기지 포인트 한번 가볼까? 할 수 있나? 뭐가 노란색으로 뜨네. 파란색이 아니야. 공원에 한번 가보자. 엠페리언 파크. 키가 다른 게 있나요? 뭔가 내가 키 배정을 잘못한 거 바뀌었다. 스케일 앵글이 작나? 가지고
Quantum travel complete.
좀 들어갑시다.
Landing gear down. Landing successful. Engines off.
서버 FPS는 5 정도밖에 수준을 유지 못하고 있거든요. 머리 쿵한. 좋은 편은 아니고요. 누워. 사유지 공원인가 보지. 될까? 하지만 그냥 무단으로 즐기겠어. 겁나 귀엽게 누워. 가방 뚫고 나오고. 다들 좀 느리네요. 얘 엘리베이터 작동 안 하나? 아, 못 내려가네. 여기 안전따위도 없어. 얼마나 무서운 지역이야 여기요. 안전 지지대도 없고. 요런 거 하나 있고 의자 여기 진짜 실제 일 장소 있으면 다리에 후두두 떨리겠다. 요거 하나 막 믿고 여기 밑에 봐야 되는 거잖아. 바람에도 불면 어떡해. 바람 안 부는 행성이 하나? 한 오리순에서 바람 불 것 같지 않은데 안정적인 가스 행성이어가지고. 고소공포증 있으면 못 볼 듯 이거. 이런데 미니 골프장 있으면 좋겠어요. 이렇게 골프 치게. 미니 골프 똥 하고 치고 들르르. 일단은 사장님 나이샷. 서버 에러에 한계가 난다. 아, PTO도 그리 뭐 안정적이라고 할 수 없네. 아. 한번 회복된 속도 한번 볼까? 참 30K 사라진 거는 거의 뭐 아예 사라진 건 아니지만 뭐 거의 사라진 거 자체는 뭐 좋다 이거야. 그 뒤로부터 생각보다 이게 아무것도 안 돼요. 복구가 잘 안되네. 어제랑 좀 비슷한가? 근데 어제도 서버에러 한 번은 떴는데 그 뒤로부터는 안 떴거든요. 소리가 갑자기 달라졌다. 서버야 살아나. 서버야 살아나. 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 채팅창 살아있는 건 좀 웃겨. 이제는 30K는 없고 FOIPW만 있었다. 서버 에러 플리스 웨이트. 뭐 30K보다는 나았긴 합니다. 솔직히 말씀드려서 30K는 터지는 순간 한 판에 뭘 깔아놨던 뭐든 상관없이 그냥 다 날아가니까 다 처음부터 해야 되니까. 이건 돌아오면 그 뭐 미션 같은 거 날아가지만 그래도 그 함선 그 위치에 그대로 있으니까 그나마 더 나은 편이긴 한데 뭐 크게 위로는 안 되네요. 그래요? 그렇게 잘 해주면 30K 나올 수도 있겠네. 오래 간다니까. 돌아왔다. 돌아왔다. 엔드 100.
Landing successful.
서버로 터져나와서 애니메이션이 좀 죽는다. 시간이 좀 걸려요. 서버 FPS가 1.8이야. 한 번 더 터질 생각 느낌이. 역시 한 번 더 터질 것 같더라 느낌이. One more to go. 요거까지 한번 복구된 거 보고 판단하겠습니다. 네, 일단은 PTO도 형제들 서버 형태가 그렇게 좋진 않아요. 스펙트럼 한번 들어가 볼까? 아유 정말 우리 수시는 Yesterday PTO was quite stable, but today it's like a server error every minute. 안녕히 주무십시오. 저도 잘 겁니다 이제. 자자. 뭐야 이거. 여러분 안녕히 주무시고요. 저 내일대로 방송을 하든 말든 결정내도록 하겠습니다. 영상 뭐 만들고 싶으면 만들고 파이오니어 컨셉 영상이나 만들어야겠다. 안녕히 주무시고요. 저는 내일 뵐게요. 바이바이. 안녕히 주무십시오. 옵션.